Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about Tottenham's home draw 2-2 against Wolves. Frustrating afternoon yet again. We're live on YouTube, we're live on X, Facebook and Twitch, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. And if you'd like to get involved in the channel and you'd like to appear as a guest, either on one of the instant match reaction shows, the Spurs Around the World shows, or the Spurs Chat podcast, please do get in touch. tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. Now, as I mentioned, Tottenham 2, Wolves 2. Wang Hee-chan put in Wolves 1-0 up after 7 minutes. Bentancur equalising in the 12th minute. Brennan Johnson scoring in the 45th minute, and then Strand Larsen scoring the equaliser in the 87th minute. Tottenham Hotspur up to 11th in the Premier League table. We have 24 points from 19 games. I've got three very special guests with me. Again, returning guest, channel regulars. Craig Dearman's back with us. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. A little bit of a hiatus since the Christmas party. Missed those two defeats. But yeah, I was hoping I'd be back for a win, but sadly not. So yeah, back to earth with a bump, I'm afraid, isn't it?
We'll talk about the football in a minute. Ricky, how are you?
Oh, mate, tough day again. But I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Always good to be on with you, gentlemen, after a game, win, lose or draw, and always good to be with you, beautiful people around the world. So. Today's another therapy session. Today we're going to go through it. We're going to break it down as much as we can and find the silver linings if there are any. And yeah, keep this train moving.
Back with us also, channel regular Melvyn, all the way from Malta. Melvyn, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. You know, disappointed not to get the 3 points. Would have made this podcast, you know, a lot more enjoyable. Yeah, like Ricky said, my free therapy session. Just hoping Chris doesn't invoice me for these. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talk about what's going on at Spurs and, you know, the struggles of late and why we think, you know, things are going on and why we think we're struggling. So, yeah.
As I mentioned, up to 11th in the Premier League table at the end of 2024. Now, the match facts and stats here today. Tottenham Hotspur had 48.2% of the ball to Wolves. 51.8%. XG, Spurs 0.99 to Wolves 0.51. Shots, Spurs had 13, Wolves had 11. Shots on target, both teams had 3. Total touches inside the box, Spurs 29, Wolves 20. Goalkeeper saves, 1 apiece. Fouls, Spurs 9, Wolves 10. Corners, 5 apiece. Ricky, before we start with you, I'll tell you what, I'm feeling pretty frustrated. The fact that we have drawn that game. When I walked out the stadium, some fans ran up to me and said, are you going to be calling for Ange Postecoglou to be sacked? I feel really frustrated at the moment because I feel like there are problems across the whole of the football club. Of course, yes, we do have injuries. I'm not going to sit here and use excuses about injuries. I feel like the board need to do more. I feel like Ange Postecoglou could tweak and change his game a lot more. I feel like some of the players could give some more. It's really frustrating to see players like Timo Werner either not given enough or not being good enough. Timo Werner seemed extremely upset after the game. A number of Spurs fans are on at one another. A number of Spurs fans are arguing amongst themselves about what is right and what is wrong about this football club. It just feels like an absolute mess to me right now. You know, I even saw, you know, some of the Spurs staff be extremely rude to some people today, including myself, which is not on. Everyone's frustrated. It seems like another frustrating afternoon. I feel like we've recorded this exact podcast before with you three gentlemen. And I'm going to use Craig's word, frustrated. I feel really frustrated about today. You know, we were 2-1 up, and at that point, you could probably say that Ange Postecoglou could tweak things, but of course, he's gone for more goals. Of course, it ended up being 2-2. People around me were even saying at that time, this is going to end up 2-2. You know, people were so confident about us not going to get that third goal and about Wolves actually equalising to grab a draw. And I tell you what, Wolves at the end were absolutely delighted with the point, absolutely delighted. And it feels like a defeat to me. Ricky, let's get your thoughts on the game.
Bro, for me, it was, again, I agree with you. I agree with everything that you just said there. For me, I'm going to look at it always a little bit differently. For me, you know, the boys came out today. They started the first half with a lot of determination, with a lot of energy, with a lot of points to prove. And even when we went 1-0 down, it invigorated the boys. They didn't stop. I'm proud of them for not stopping. I'm proud of them for standing up and going, we're not going to take this lying down. And we continued to push and we continued to push. And by the end of that first half, we should have been 3-1 up. Okay? We had a penalty there, as well as Johnson's goal. So we could have and should have finished that half 3-1 up. We didn't. We finished 2-1 up. And once we came out in the second half, I felt it was a lot bittier. I felt that obviously the energy level started to wane a little bit and Wolves started to grow into the game. I kind of disagree with you a little bit, Chris, in the sense of in that second half, yes, we were going for the third, but I feel that we was going for the third because Wolves looked so dangerous on the break and we felt that there could have been another goal there and we needed the third to settle ourselves. But there were times in that second half where I felt they did consolidate. They did try and hold on, especially those last 15 minutes and stuff like that. They did try and go, all right, and cool, let's hold on for the win. Let's push back a little bit. How far back was our back line? And we started playing in like the little tiki-taka in our own half, in our own box. And I hate that stuff. I really do. It makes me panic. That I can't stand that when we play tiki-taka around the box. So for me, I think that Ange tried to do a lot of things today, and I think that it didn't work. You know, he tried to consider it. Oh, I can't say the damn word, but I can't say it. He tried to hold on to the 3 points in those last 3 minutes, and the boys tried to hold on, but it just wasn't to be. Strand Larsen's goal from that acute angle and with that pace and power, you know, what can you do? We had a potential Forster coming off in that second half. That was potentially another guy down, and we don't know what was affecting him at that time. Even though we made a couple of saves, every single game we've got an injury coming off the field. Right now, your doggy comes off the field holding his hamstring, so we're in a position where we're rushing players back because we're desperate for players and we're desperate for energy and we're desperate for quality, and they end up coming back and then getting another injury. Now we know that Udogie could have played the last game. Technically, he could have played the last game, but we didn't do it because he needed more rest time. He needed more recovery time, and we ended up playing Spence. Spence goes and gets a red card, so now he's not even available today for that rotation or that right back slot to give somebody else a bit more kind of recovery time. So we're on last legs right now. We're trying to do the best that we can with what we got, but it ain't enough. You know, there isn't enough quality in the side. You can tell that the squad hasn't got the depth that it needs. And ball needs rotation. It needs subs. It needs substitutes coming off the bench to affect the team because it is such a high energy. It is such an exhausting formation and way that we play that you need those 5 subs to come off and make impacts. You know, and we haven't really got that, Chris. We can't rotate our right back and left back. We can't rotate our wingers. And when we do, you know, you've got someone like Werner coming on who, for his whole time being here, hasn't shown us the quality that we half expected from him. Can he lose a guy and whip a cross in? Yes. He was very unlucky that Solanke didn't score today from his quick cross. But
can he control a simple pass? No.
Say again?
Can he control a simple pass? No.
No, he can't. No, he can't. But we're asking him to do the very simple things which are tough enough. Do you know what I mean? Are tough enough for him. So we haven't got the quality coming off the bench. We haven't got the pace coming off the bench. We haven't got, we just don't have the squad to kind of deal with this relentless amount of games after every 3 days. And yes, we're into a wobble, but those boys continue to push. And look how disappointed and heartbroken and heads down they were at the end, because it is affecting them. I see those boys running and playing for the manager, and therefore I'm going to stand beside those boys, and I'm going to stand beside the manager. And I can't let the same excuses which have been there for the last 20 odd years continue to play out, bro. We've had it under every single manager. We've had it under every single manager that we haven't had the squad capable enough to go out there and do the job that the manager is being employed to do. January, we need help. January, we need quality. January, we need experience. And we need almost another Benton Kerr and Kulusevski to come in that actually really lifts this side. Not only the playing side, but the mental side of the rest of the players and the squad being in there. We need some quality in there. We need some help, because the boys, you can see that they're trying and they're pushing and they're trying and they're pushing. But what can we do when your doggy comes off after, what was it, 60 odd minutes with a hamstring? Now, how long is he going to be out for? We had Regulon playing that the boss clearly does not want to play, but he's out of necessity has to play Regulon. You know, we've got Dragusin in there, half fit defender. We don't know how he's feeling, but he's obviously been pressurized and you put the hopes on to come back in to that center of defense, because we've only got one defender left. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of reasons why I think that the energy levels and the performances are dropping. And you can tell that by the way that we play. We haven't played Ange ball for a long time. We haven't been able to string 3 passes together and control the game like we have done when there's the squad there. And we have had the squad very, very minimal in the season and a half that Ange has been there. We have had a fully fit squad being able to rotate and change and mix things up and put different flavors into the midfield or into the defense or into the up front. Every time. Last year it was the same. Perisic and Solomon came in, and how long did Ange have Perisic for? How long did he have Solomon for? This year we had Odegaard. Like, how long has he had him for? Do you know what I mean? Like, and Solomon's out there playing at Leeds every week, creating and scoring. We are a cursed club, and we know it. We know it as Tottenham fans, and all those fans out there that believe that in the protests, in the bigger problems that have been happening year in, year out, unfortunately, you agree with me. I know you don't agree with me with Ange, but you agree with me, because the reason that you guys are protesting, the reason that you guys are shouting, the reason that you guys are frustrated, angry, and you're putting yourselves out there is because of what I'm saying. It's because we've continued to do the same things year in, year out. Leave ourselves short. Leave ourselves hoping and praying. Leave ourselves hoping for a young one to turn up and burst onto the scene and kind of make a difference. We do this all the time. And just come in to change that. And just come in to switch that. And you know what? Like under Paratici, under Paratici, we were getting the quality. We were getting the experience. We were paying that little bit extra to get our number 1 targets. But then that all changes. So we have got a whirl of problems. We have got a cacophony of problems going on. And each one knocks onto the other. They're all a domino effect. They're all knocking onto each other. Just when we get your doggy back, 60 minutes he's out. Like, I mean, what is going on? I mean, whatever hex or whatever curse that is on us, can we please get a witch doctor in or a shaman or somebody to wee at the corner flag, because this is too much. It's too much. And I don't think this is down to the way that Ange trains or plays. Some of these have been innocuous. Some of these have been ankle injuries. Davies was an ankle injury. Madison was an ankle injury last year. You know, Dragusin. We have been the side that have drawn the most amount of fouls last year and this year. We have drawn the most amount of fouls last year and this year. Do you know what I mean? We're at the top of that table. So we're getting kicked to hell. And half of the time we don't get the protection that we deserve, but we're being kicked to hell and our players are coming off injured. And then we're in a situation again where we're looking at 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds writing sick notes to the school so that we can have them on the bench as a potential option. You've got to look at this wider picture. You've got to look at this as not just one incident. It's not just today's game. It's not just a draw today against Wolves. Do you know what I mean? It is a cacophony of problems. And do you know what? It's time to stand with the boys. It's time to stand with this manager, and it's time to put the pressure on the board to go out there and put their hand in their pocket. Go and fill the gaps that we started the season with. We started the season with gaps, and yet we're surprised when 17 players are out injured, and now we're down to bare bones. And now we're running those same players into the ground week in, week out. Do you know what I mean? Of course,
Ricky,
there's going to be a dip in energy and quality. Of course there is. But we need help. We need help, and we need those guys upstairs in that boardroom to sort it out and bring in some proper quality. And we know January is difficult. We know negotiations are difficult, but it needs to happen. You need to pay that extra $5 million to get that player in. You need to give that little bit extra wage to get that player in right now, because we need it and we need help. You can't just leave him and sling Ange to the dogs and throw him in the pit of vultures and just let him be the scapegoat again. I'm not having it. I can't have it. I can't have it. Do you know what I mean? Things have to change. Things have to be tweaked. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. But I could also give you examples of when they have tweaked and when they have changed. Today's game, we tried to consolidate. We tried to hold the ball, but it couldn't happen. We couldn't string 3 passes together. You know, so there's a lot of problems going on. And it is not all down to the big boss man. And I know there's fans out there that feel differently, and I get it. But we have to follow a direction. We have to follow something, and we can't keep going through the same cycles year in, year out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't do this in another 18 months' time. I can't do this, mate.
I agree, Ricky. I agree with you. But when you're 2-1 up against this Wolves side, I think that Ange Postecoglou should have done things slightly different today.
Like what, Chris? He brought on Sarr, Maddison, and Werner at the right time when we was getting overwhelmed in the second half, and when we wasn't getting hold of the ball or any energy or any rhythm whatsoever. So he brought on 3. Do you know what I mean? He had an enforced substitution with your doggy.
But you've got players surging forward constantly, trying to score another goal rather than protect the lead. They tried
to protect that lead, Chris, but then we had to continue to go. We have heard him
say so many times, "I am not going to change." Does any part of that "I'm not going to change" frustrate you? Because it's about winning football matches. And hold on, before you talk, I'm looking at the Premier League table, right? We're sitting here with 24 points. We're 11 points away from the top 4. We're 10 points away from the relegation zone. We are near the relegation zone rather than top 4, Rick. This is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I hear you, bro. But tell me, if we would have tried to hold the ball, that they still wouldn't have scored.
Yeah, but that's not an option. It's not an option because we know that he's not going to play that way anyway.
But, bro, he dropped back in the second half. The whole team dropped back. Look at that. Look at the line. When we pushed forward and we started to raise the line. But we was in our own half for a long time. We done the same against Man City. We done the same against Man United when we consolidated, when we dropped back and hit them on the break. So there are moments in times, but we can't legislate for like poor passes or poor decisions in that final third. We had the opportunities to go 3-4 today. Do you know what I mean? Including the penalty. And those goals we scored through playing the Ange way. Do you know what I mean? Yes.
Ricky, to me, the win was more important today rather than style of play, Ange ball, no matter what you want to call it. The 3 points today was the most important thing. No matter how you go and get it, you needed those 3 points today. Because I tell you what, it's a frustrated and an angry fan base right now. And I feel like a win at the end of 2024, I know we've got a week now until that Newcastle game, and games have come thick and fast. I get all of that. We've played Thursday, Sunday for the last 5 weeks. I tell you what, it's taken it out of me as a fan going to all these games, let alone them guys as players and Ange Postecoglou as the manager. I know he's had tough times, but I'm now just looking at some of the things that Ange does do and what he doesn't do. And I tell you what, I'll be honest, it's starting to frustrate me a little bit.
And it's going to, because the results ain't there, Chris. It's going to. But let's bring in a defensive manager and see what happens. Let's see how many goals we score and let's see how many clean sheets we keep. We've had 2 defensive managers. How many clean sheets did we have and how many goals did we score?
Yeah, but you could go down. You could go down and say,
we could do this forever, bro.
I know you could, but you're saying about entertainment. He's saying, are you entertained? Entertained for the neutral when we're scoring and shipping so many goals. But at the end of the day, football is about results. I get it. I love Ange Postecoglou's style of play, but sometimes I think you just need to rein it in a little bit and manage the game better. I'll tell you what.
And I understand that. And do you know what? I agree with you. I agree with you in that.
Let's, Melvyn, before we come to you, let's go to see what Ange Postecoglou made of the game.
Tough one to take. What did you make of it today?
Yeah, tough one to take. Fair enough. Disappointing outcome. We obviously went a goal down, but after that, I thought we got control of the game. We scored our goals. We had some great opportunities to get a third, just to kill the game off. And when you don't, it's 2-1. The game's always in the balance. They didn't really create much. I think Fraser had sort of one save to make with his feet. But there's always that possibility, and we left Billy disappointed with the outcome. But at the same time, it's not through the want to try, and the players are just giving everything. It's fair to say, they're dipping into every bit of energy they have to try and get us a result. And from my perspective, I think that's important.
Just said to Brennan, and you lads, everyone appreciates what you lads are going through at the moment. It would have just been nice for something like one of these to stick, to get through to 2-1. Just it would have lifted everyone, wouldn't it? Yeah, particularly the players, because I think they deserve a reward today for their efforts. Because, like I said, we're relying on a small group of players to carry us through, and they're just working their socks off. And I would have wanted them to get a reward today for their efforts, and when they don't, it obviously hurts.
I understand you won't know much about it yet, but I imagine that's a hamstring injury for Destiny, Doggy.
Yeah, it is, and again, we were relying on very few, and it was always one of the risk that somebody could get a further injury when you're not able to rest them, and unfortunately, Destiny's the one that pays the price today.
Is the situation still the same, that you imagine that Mikey and Richie will be back in training in the coming days?
We'll see. Richie, we're hopeful. Mikey's a little bit off still, so we'll just have to wait and see over the next sort of few days.
And is the messaging to the players now, Andrew, you just reinforcing that you see the fact they're putting in this effort, you see the fact that they're giving literally everything that they can?
No, you can't dismiss that. I mean, we're all disappointed, but I certainly can't dismiss it. It's I see a group of players who are just giving everything to try and turn our fortunes around, and that needs to be acknowledged. And as a manager, I certainly I don't dismiss that at all.
This period has been so crazy in terms of the amount of football played. There's another huge period to come in January, but there's just a tiny bit of a window now where you have a few days to play with. Yeah. Is that helpful in terms of getting players back, or is that helpful in terms of the players that you've been asking a lot from getting a bit of a rest? Yeah, I mean,
in terms of getting players back, I don't think that's going to make a difference, but certainly in terms of the boys who've been working hard, I mean, it's the first midweek we've got free for probably 2.5 months, so they can certainly, they deserve a couple of days away from everything, the club and football, and just to refresh them physically as well as mentally, and hopefully that sort of freshens them up and gets them back and ready for a big game next week.
Melvyn, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's draw with Wolves.
Again, another one difficult to take. A point. Did we deserve the point at the end? Did we deserve the 3 points? I don't know. Could he done something different? I thought the lineup was good. I thought Bentancur was excellent today, and I thought he bossed the midfield. It's just the same story. We keep repeating ourselves. Before we started, he said there's going to be. We've done pods like these before. We've said the same things. I don't want to say anything that I think everyone is a bit angry, and it seems that Postecoglou's right now in a very difficult moment. He just has to get through it. I don't think he's a bad manager. I still believe in him. The result, I know, when you lose so many players to injuries, the players are exhausted. I know it's excuses, but we lost so many players that last season did the job for us. Like, for example, I'm going to say his name, Højbjerg. We don't have a Højbjerg on the bench. We don't have an experienced player. Our most experienced player is Heung-min Son, who in my opinion now is finished. He's finished. He's okay on his day. He does score the odd goal, which keeps his numbers up. But it's like we're playing with one hand tied behind our back. Heung-min Son is. I love him. He's a great servant to the club. Harry Kane left and he stayed, but I don't think Heung-min Son is at that level anymore. I know he's a leader on the pitch, but he didn't do anything today, and he didn't do anything on the last game either. And question marks need to be asked about Son. I thought, weirdly enough, when Timo came in, he created more than Son did the whole game. Son didn't do anything. He didn't
Melvyn,
do anything.
What is it about Son always getting the blame? What about everyone else?
It's because you expect more from him. I think if you think of Mohamed Salah right now, they're similar age. He's still doing it for Liverpool. It's like, why isn't he doing it for us? You have to think, like I always say, there's question marks on these players. I don't like Maddison at the moment. I don't like that, the fullbacks aren't performing. Dragozin did okay. Archie Gray never gets mentioned for an 18-year-old. I think that's fucking insane. I just look at Archie Gray and I just think there's a bit of spark. There's a bit of positivity right now in Archie Gray. And no one mentions him because we're losing. And even I didn't mention him in the last podcast, but he's a positive, Archie Gray. I think he'll develop into a player, but he's still 18. We need experienced players. I mean, Bentancur came in and he got us back into the game. And I thought he was going around the pitch and he was doing the dirty work that Bissouma wasn't doing. And he was often mopping up mistakes that Pedro Porro was doing. I thought he was everywhere. I know he's still coming back. Where is it going wrong? It's probably a bit of everything that all of you said and the fans say, because I think all of us have a pretty good understanding of where the club's gone wrong, where Postecoglou's going wrong, what's wrong with the squad. I feel that every time we speak, everyone has a pretty good understanding of where the problems are. Even in the comments, you see people saying he was shit, this is the problem. Everyone has a pretty good understanding of where it's going wrong. And it's a combination of all of it. I mean, we were in the summer, Chris, you were disappointed with the transfer window. We were left short of quality. I mean, today, the only ready-made player that we bought was Dominic Solanke, and he was excellent today. He didn't score. That's the only thing that was missing today, him scoring. If he scored the third goal, and when we didn't score the third, and it was the 80th minute, I thought, we're going to concede. We're just going to concede. I just know we're going to concede. And I was looking at the game and I was quiet. I didn't say...
Can I just say, Melvyn, most people around me said, like I said earlier, said it's going to be 2-2. We all saw it coming. This is what I mean about, I've got to be very careful what I say here, because I really want this to work for Ange Postecoglou, but I feel like in some games, some tweaks need to be made. The game management needs to be looked at heavily in games like this, because it's frustrating to draw a game like this where you should be picking up the 3 points. And as I mentioned, we are officially a mid-table club. Tottenham Hotspur are officially mid-table with what I just said, 10 points away from the relegation zone, 11 points away from top four. I feel like because we're in cup competitions, I feel like everything's okay. I'll tell you what, the second we start going out of cup competitions, I feel like it is then all going to go wrong. Do you agree? Because if you look at most of the comments here, I feel like a large majority of the comments are asking for Ange Postecoglou to leave the football club. Now, I'm questioning that myself, because you can say, and all of us have said it before, that you get rid of Ange Postecoglou today, tomorrow, whatever, next week, whether it's a month's time, whatever, after if we lose to Liverpool in the League Cup semi-final, then what? Then what? Whoever comes in, it's that same cycle again and again and again. We have seen it so often. The football club needs to change in that way. You either need to back the manager, whether it be Ange or somebody else. You need to change as a football club to drive forward, because at the moment we are going through this frustrating time again and again and again, every 18 months to 2 years. How many times have I said 7 different managers in the dugout since and including Pochettino in 2019 up until Postecoglou now? It is absolute madness. We cannot keep going through this. And I tell you what, I can't keep recording this same podcast again and again. It's driving me mad.
Yeah. Where the problems, I think, lie, there's multi-layers of problems. There's problems with the board. There's problems at the stadium with the atmosphere. There's problem with the squad. There's problems with the manager's tactics. There's so many problems right now that on the pitch, it's not helping at all. There's problems on the pitch as well. So when we drop points like these, it's not a defeat, but it feels like a defeat. It feels worse than a defeat for some reason. All of a sudden, all these problems just crash all at once. You mentioned today the atmosphere wasn't very good. That's another problem. It's not helping the team. These types of, we need the atmosphere to be better. There's problems. There's fans fighting amongst themselves. People who are, protesting against the board. People who just want to support the club. There's so many problems at the moment, and part of me is trying to figure out where did these all come? Because when we started in the summer, everyone was quite positive and excited about this season, and all of a sudden all these problems kept creeping up one after the other, and it's like where do we regain control of the ship again and we start to go up again? Is it when we get Romero and Van de Ven back? Is it when we get Vicario back? Is it if we sign players in January? And that's a whole problem in itself, because I don't want to buy anyone who's a panic buy that we're going to be stuck with. I rather finish 8th and find out where our problems are and where our massive gaps are, and then build again from next season, if it's with this manager or not. But at least I will know where the problems are. And like I keep saying, there's question marks on these players. Which players can do it and which ones cannot? And these need to be answered. And the ones that we cannot do it, we sell them and we move on. We've cleared out many players last summer, and we will have to do that again this summer. But we'll see what we do in January. January is going to be interesting because we'll see what the club's ambition is. Does the club want to win the Europa League? Does the club want to win something this season? Which I don't think we're capable of. I think the squad is too young and too tired by Christmas. We're already exhausted. It seems that the squad has played the entire season. Why are we so tired?
The thing is, though, Melvyn, with the January transfer window, as Ricky rightly said earlier, the January window is very, very difficult at the best of times. But because of the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Europa Conference League format has now changed. Of course, those games now run into January. Clubs are less... it's going to be very unlikely that any of these clubs will want to offload players in the January transfer window because they want those players available for those European games. So it's going to be even more difficult this season. Craig, let's come to you. I tell you what, we're 33 minutes in the podcast. You've not even given your thoughts on the game. That's how bad things are.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to get through and talk about, and people's opinions. Obviously, I can see in the chat, I've read almost every comment, and there's a lot of different opinions. But as you say, there's a lot of people angry. There's a lot of people angry with Ange, the board. Look, I get all of it. I would say that any company, and Tottenham is a company, leadership has to come from the very top. And that's usually where the blame does lie. And if Ange isn't, or any manager, isn't being given the tools, and we've seen it for many a year. Go back to Poch. That's a great example. If you're not being given the tools to do the job, the manager can't do his job properly. I'm not letting Ange off the hook, by the way. I think Ange is culpable in certain situations. But today we did drop back a little bit. We did drop deeper and try and see that game out. We just lost to an absolute brilliant strike. And you could say the play before then led to that. Absolutely, I get that. I'm not letting anyone off the hook here. But we did drop deeper because I've said for months and months and months, if Van de Ven isn't playing, the whole system falls apart. We lose a massive, massive cog in that wheel because he uses pace to get back. We play the slightly higher line, and 9 times out of 10, Mickey Van de Ven will get there. He's not in the team at the moment. You only got to look at our results. I know we had some bad results before Mickey got injured. Look at the results after he got injured. I know other players have gone as well, like your Romero's, and we've had, one of our normal back four in a lot of the time with Porro, who looks absolutely knackered most of the time as well. So that doesn't help. I think the training affects the players. I think not necessarily the style of play, because a football match is a football match. You know, you're going to do 50, 60-yard sprints. Yes, we do more than a lot of the other teams, but the training, they must be looking at that and looking at something they're doing in the training that's weakening players' hamstrings. I know you generally get fast players are prone to hamstring injuries. You only got to look back as far as Michael Owen. He always had trouble with hamstrings. It goes hand in glove with that. So Mickey van der Ven, he's going to have hamstrings most of his life, unfortunately. But when he's in the team, it changes everything for me. Daniel Levy he's obviously getting a lot of stick at the moment, and rightly so. He simply needs to support his manager in the January transfer window. Because like you said, Chris, it actually reminds me of the Champions League run season, because we've had a run in the Carabao Cup. We've got Liverpool in the next round, as we all know. That game is coming up soon. I think it's 2 or 3 down the track. And I have to say, at the moment, if we put those players out on the pitch, we're going to lose at home, and then God knows what's going to happen at Anfield when we go there. It's worrying, it's frustrating, and it's sad in many ways that we've got here. Yeah. It really is, because like you said, 18 months' time, if they sack him, 18 months' time, we're going to be back on here doing exactly the same podcast. And like you, just get sick and tired of talking the same thing over and over again every 18 months. You get that new manager bounce, we do well, and then holes start to appear and cracks start to appear. There are players in this squad that just simply aren't good enough. There's players that need to be moved on still. There's players that look absolutely knackered. And yet, injuries, absolutely. I get that totally. But something needs to happen in that January transfer window. I know it's hard, but we desperately need reinforcements, because we've lost the doggy now. That's going to be, the way he was limping off, that's got to be 4 to 6 weeks at least, you would think.
Is that really where we're at, though, Craig? That we're all sitting here praying and hoping for a fantastic January transfer window? Because if we are, then I think we're in trouble.
I totally agree, 100%. What I would say is, if you want another manager to come in, fine. But who do you bring in? Who do you want? What sort of manager do you want to come in? Do you want another Conte? Do you want another Jose? What do you want? Because bringing in another manager, is it going to change if they've got these players still? Because they've got exactly the same squad. All you're doing is changing the manager and the staff.
One thing I'd say about that is the fact that I don't think Tottenham Hotspur can be picky and choosy about who they want. I think it's more or less of who wants the job. Because we know that Ange Postecoglou walked into this football club, he wanted the job. A lot of people didn't want the job because they have seen many managers come into the football club and it not work out. They have seen many managers, win-now managers like Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, many different managers that have walked through the door at this football club and not been given the tools that they require and should be a normality at a big club. If we want to be seen as a big club, then you need to do things in a certain way, and that hasn't been done.
That's right. 100%. And it does come back to that, doesn't it? Getting the right tools to do the job. Ange still wants to be here, remember? He does. And like you say, the manager actually really wanted this job. Conte always felt like he was doing us a favour. Same with Jose to a degree. Poch, obviously, I've got fond memories of Poch. I have to say, I still, when we were on that manager search, I wanted Poch back. I still think he could do a job. God. I mean, are we here? We're still talking about Pochettino 5 years later. I mean, he's simply incredible. What I would say about Son and Salah comparison, Salah isn't being asked to play Ange ball. Salah doesn't do the tracking back. He's just asked to do his damage in that top area of the pitch, and he gets rotated because he's got quality around him, more quality around him than Tottenham have. So Mo Salah is always going to be fresh because he's not really asked to do anything defensively. Don't get me wrong, Salah on his day, well, not even on his day, in my opinion, he is a better player than Heung-min Son, but Son is world class as well on his day, don't forget. I just think he's being asked to play in a system that doesn't suit his style of play at his age. I think it would be incredibly difficult for any player at 32 to play in that system and in that way and ask him to do the job you're asking him to do. And I agree. Also, I thought Werner was okay when he came on. I'm not saying Timo was the answer, but I thought he done okay when he come on. I agree with what you said, Chris, about making the substitutions. I thought Bergvall would have been a better choice to come in to the centre mid today and just sit a bit more. Sarr was obviously going forward. Maddison is a forward-thinking player. So you could look at that. You could look at the lack of depth to come in across the back line to give Porro and who went left back, Reguilon, a bit more cover. But then again, they were both still bombing forward. So just keep them in our half. I know that's what I would say. Conte and Mourinho would have kept our fullbacks in the half. But then again, Ange said he's not changing. And that's where I think that's on Ange a little bit. He seems a bit stubborn to change sometimes. And I think he's probably, he should have learned from the last 10 games that you do need to evaluate the match and do certain things differently.
It's not just a little bit stubborn, though, Craig, is it? He said a number of times, I am not going to change. Does that bother you in any way? Because I feel like it's starting to bother a lot of the fan base. I'm sitting here. I don't know. If you ask me, am I Ange in or am I Ange out? I couldn't even answer you because I don't know how to feel about it. Because like I said, if you bring in a different manager, we're just going to go through the whole cycle again. I like the football under Ange Postecoglou, but I would like Ange to change things in certain games to get us a result, not always be thinking about, we've got to be playing entertaining football, we've got to score more goals, even if it means that we're going to concede more, we've got to score more. And I feel like that is, that's happened today because we've drawn the game 2-2. We should have won the game 2-1 or even more goals. But I feel like we could have shored that game up a lot more and that game, it should have been 3 points today. That's what I'm really angry about. We should be sitting here with 3 points, not feeling like we've lost.
Yeah. No, you're right, and that it was just to seeing the game out. That's the thing we all wanted. And to be honest, I actually couldn't see Wolves scoring actually because I predicted 2-2, but towards the end I thought, do you know what? We might actually see this out, and of course we didn't. I think Kulusevski's been a shining light at the moment over the last 10-12 weeks. I think he's been superb. He's kind of kept us ticking over. As for the football today, I didn't think it was actually that brilliant. I don't think we played fantastically well. It wasn't, and I haven't seen that free-flowing passing football really. You saw it a bit at Southampton, obviously, but Southampton are a poor side. Apart from that, I haven't really seen Ange ball. I don't actually know what this Ange ball is now. But is that because we haven't got the players to play Ange ball? Kind of answered my own question there, and we probably haven't.
Perhaps I'll come to you on this, Ricky. You've mentioned about the amount of injuries that we've had, and yes, we've been extremely unlucky with the injuries. But I think Craig made the point yesterday in our group, the fact that are some of these injuries down to the fact that we play such high intensity football, Ange ball? Is that an issue? That the fact that we're having all of these injuries because of the type of football that we're trying to play?
When we was playing under Poch, we played very aggressive and the training was relentless. It was very energetic and it was very relentless. So much so that when we signed on Ndombele, on the second day of training, he was like, I don't know what this is about. I need to leave. He wanted to leave after the second day of training because of how intense and what was being asked of them. That style of football worked for us and high energy works for us. We want a high energy, high pressing team. We know when we're aggressive and we're high pressing that we play good football. We actually get on the ball and do certain things. But when it comes down to having 10 players out, 10 players, or maybe 11 now, I don't even know how many players out that we've got. In training, you're asking the same people to do those same sprints. Do you know what I mean? Again, there ain't the respite or there ain't the exchange, you know, of one team going on and the other team coming off. Also, we can only speculate about training. You know, like I said, there's been a couple of innocuous challenges. So Romero's return injury, all he done was a Cruyff turn and it was something to do with his quad. He was off. Do you know what I mean? We had to run Mickey against Chelsea. We had to run Mickey as long as he could go until he came off injured, you know. So it's the same problems, bro. It's the same problems, and we can only speculate what's happening in training. We can only guess. We don't know. We get 4 minutes to 5 minutes of a training video where they do a rondo and they take some shots at goal. That's all we can see. That's all we know. So we don't know. But what we do know is that Tottenham play a high energy, high pressing game, and that type of stamina and engine and mental strength is needed for this type of game. So we've either not got the personnel there, or we've not got the right personnel in the right positions. To me, it comes down to the same thing, is that if you leave us with holes and you ask us to carry water, do not complain that we're spilling it over the ground as we carry it, because we were left with holes. We started with holes. Now, you can talk about Ange Postecoglou and the squad and him saying, no, he's happy with what he's got. What else is he supposed to say? What else is he supposed to say? Like, at the end of the day, he's got a transfer budget. He's tried to chop it up the best way that he could. He's taken a couple of gambles. You've got to remember, Bergvall wasn't signed this summer. He was signed in January or the previous transfer window and came in the summer. So we didn't sign another 18-year-old in the summer. He had his budget and he chopped it up. The main thing that he wanted, if he was only going to get one signing, was Solanke. Yeah, and we can see how he works for the system. If we could get the right help, if we can get the right personnel, and I believe that Ange looks for the right personality to come into this club. That we've chased so many players that just wanted to come to us for Champions League football, or use Champions League football as an excuse, or some of these have been kind of swayed by the Spursy tag of Tottenham and gone, no, I'm not going to Tottenham. Those high quality first teamers that we want, they've said, no, I'm all right. I'm sure somebody else will want me. And then they go there, bro. So we've had a lot of things to battle. And the fact that he wants to bring in players, not only of the right quality and the right ability, with the right stamina and the right engine, but he wants to bring in those that know that this club is cursed, that know what we're up against, and that want to face it head on, that wants to go to war, that wants to battle against it and battle this big mountain of cursed energy and still reach the peak. That's what type of players that he's after. We could bring in another Werner. Do you know what I mean? We could bring in another guy who is on high wages, who has a bit of a reputation, but comes in and does nothing, or comes in and just drops his head. Do you know what I mean? Like after a few results or something like that. We need the right players at the right time, and I think Ange is the guy to give the money to kind of go, all right, and cool, let's help him. Let's help him. All right, the budget for the summer was A, B, and C. All right, cool. We're going to have to increase some budget for this winter window and follow this line and this direction and this journey through. You get rid of him now, bro, we're in dire straits again. You know what I mean? And we've got the same players in the same positions with the same problems. So exactly what everybody else has said there, man. It's like, for me, yes, okay, cool. Training, we can only speculate about training and what they're doing in training. But with a high press, of course, it's going to be high energy. Of course, it's going to be full on. Of course it is. But we don't know how many rest days that they're getting within 3 days between games. Do you know what I mean? You can say that they're excuses, but these are facts. Do you know what I mean? That we've got half of our first team squad out, that we're relying on kids.
Ricky,
You know?
does it bother you in any way the fact that the Tottenham Hotspur fan base and how many guests and regulars have said on this podcast about that we want superstar players coming in, we want ready-made players, we want experienced players, etc., etc. And Ange wants to go down the route of signing these young players for the future. I'm all for that, but of course we need the experienced players in as well. Does any part of that worry you? The fact that we are signing a certain type of player, and does it worry you the fact that we're not going to see superstars or top quality players coming in because he generally doesn't go for that type of player?
I don't know whether that's the case, bro, or whether that's the club's case. I think the club wanted to go down the younger route. But that's what. So the club's direction. A manager's come in and he's gone, do you know what? Okay, fine. I can work with your direction. I can work with your boundaries. I can work with your rules, and we're going to try and do the best that we can. I don't know if that means that, because when Ange first came in, he brought in Maddison. He brought in Mickey van der Ven. This year he brought in Solanke, who's, 26, 27. So it's not that. I don't think it's that, bro. I don't think he just wants kids. I think this summer there was an opportunity to get some young ones in that he felt that could help us long term. And that's an unselfish manager. He's looking at it and kind of going, all right, and cool, I can bring them in, and I could, and you know what, in a couple of seasons' time, these guys might be dynamite for this club. They might be the right way for this club. So it's an unselfish attitude. He's not thinking about himself, but we need him to be a little bit selfish, and we need the board to be thinking about now, right now, because we need help. We're not going to be able to do it with the 18-year-olds and stuff like that. There are some dynamite 22-year-olds out there, as we know. So you can find the right balance, but they're going to cost a little bit more. If you want a high-achieving youngster to come in to the first 11, they're going to cost a bit more, because those certain players have got the eyes of the world on them. They've got the biggest clubs in the world on them already. So we have to be smart and we have to be clever, and we've got to do it in the right way. But right now, just because we brought in young ones in the summer, like I said, Bergvall didn't come in the summer, but because we brought young ones in, that doesn't mean that that's all he's looking at. Because he showed me within in the 2 windows that he's had that he's brought in young and experienced where he can. He's had to chop up his money. He's had to look at his £10 and work out if he can buy a packet of crisps, a Lucozade, and a chicken and chips meal. He can't. He's got to figure out what he wants. Do you know what I mean? He can't. So he's had to chop it up. This is the way that I see it. So right now, we know what we need, and he said it. He has said it himself in recent press conferences that we do need a bit more experience. We do need a bit more quality, and we do need that ready-made type of player. This is the next level. He took the chance and he took the risk of going and spending 30-40 mil on Archie Gray, because he believed that could help us. And we've got we're almost signing a young Gerrard, the way that he's speaking about him and the way that managers that have worked with him have spoken about him. So it's almost like that. Would you take that hit? Would you take that hit in hindsight? Would you take a 40 million hit on buying the next Gerrard and him turn into Gerrard? Or would you, like, you know, Clement Longley, who's got experience from Barcelona and can play left centre back? We've been there, we've done it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think it's as black and white as we see it. I think there are shades of grey, 102 shades of grey at Tottenham. There's not 50, let me tell you. But I think that there's loads of different capacities. And yes, it's frustrating that we didn't fill the holes that we needed in the summer. We didn't fill the holes that we needed in the summer. And we all, as Tottenham fans, know that. Now it's time for them to put their hand in their pocket and to make some of these gaps, these holes. They need to fill in a couple of them. We're not going to do it all in January, but we need a couple.
Just a very quick question for all of you, just a yes or a no.
Are you
Ricky,
sure? You know what happens when you do this, Chris?
Please, just a yes or a no. Do you think that Ange Postecoglou will be the Spurs manager at the end of January?
I'm going to say yes, because I mean, I'm going to back him. I'm going to back him. I'm going to say he's going to come through this, and he's going to shut us all up.
I didn't ask whether we're backing him. I said, do you think he'll be the manager?
Yes.
Melvyn?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes, but it depends on the Carabao Cup second leg. I think if we lose to Liverpool and go out, I think his days could be numbered.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. Melvyn, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11 today. Of course, Spurs 2, Wolves 2. The team lineup today: Forster, Porro, Dragushin, Gray, Udogie, Basuma, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Johnson, Solanke and Son. On the sub-bench today: Austin, Reguilon, Dorrington, Starr, Bergvall, Maddison, Elise, Werner and Lancashire. Of course, Ange Postecoglou made 2 changes to the team that lost 1-0 at Nottingham Forest. Pedro Porro coming in, Jed Spence out, suspended. Basuma coming in, Sarr dropping to the bench. Solanke made his 150th Premier League appearance. And Brennan Johnson, interestingly, featured in every Spurs game during the calendar year of 2024. Melvyn, what did you make of the team lineup today? Of course, it was great to see Radu Dragushin coming in, although Ange Postecoglou after the game has insisted that he wasn't at 100%. In his words, he says, what choice did we have? Of course, Spurs fans felt a lot more comfortable with Dragushin playing at centre-back rather than Basuma, who, from what I understand, who was actually training at centre-back since that Nottingham Forest game. But what did you make of the starting 11 and the sub-bench today?
I think the lineup was okay. I think the first half we pressed really well. I think playing Kulusevski, even though last week I wanted him to play out wide, playing Kulusevski in the middle and him and Solanke pressing together, I think works really well. And with Bentancur and Bissouma behind them complements them well because they close the gap quite well too. So our pressing was really good in the first 35, 40 minutes. And I thought, how long can we keep this going? Because I thought they're going to get tired. But I liked the lineup. I thought it was balanced in a way. But if you look at the lineup, only 2 players from our summer transfer window really featured today. And one of them is 18-year-old Archie Gray. So it just shows how weak our transfer window was in a sense, because it made minimum impact to our season. So only Solanke in reality impacted our season. So we're pretty much playing the exact same 11 or you could say 10 from last season. And on top of that we have the injuries. So the lineup, it's disappointed. Yes, we're seeing more of Dragoshin, which is something I like to see. When you have an injury, when you have one, let's say when you have one, the team's we already struggle to win as it is. It's been a constant at Spurs. When we have one player out, we struggle. Let alone 4 or 5, we struggle. It took us ages under Pochettino for us to develop and become a team where, when he rested players, I remember when we used to have maybe Eriksen out, or we used to have Kyle Walker out, or Trippier is playing, or Danny Rose was injured, or Vertonghen or Dembele was injured. When someone was injured, we used to lose. It took us ages to become a team where Pochettino used to rest and rotate, and we would still get the victory. It took him ages. I remember, Chris, I met you outside the stadium at Crystal Palace, and we won 1-0. And the most random player scored 1 Foyth. It took us ages to become that kind of team where we used to win 1-0 and pick up a victory and be solid, compact. We're nowhere near that at the moment. I think if I would compare Spurs at the moment where we are in our rebuild, it'll be like we're back to where we were under Martin Jol. That kind of team. We're all the way back there. We had to start from the beginning. We have so many young players. We had to gut the squad. We're back there. We're not Champions League quality. We're not even Europa League quality. I think we're gonna struggle to go far in the Europa League.
Do you know what, Melvyn? Do you know what? The reason why I asked that question about Postecoglou, and the reason why I think that Ange is probably under pressure at Spurs, is the fact that league position to the football club means a lot.
It does, but I think in the past, where we used to rely always on Champions League money to be competitive in the transfer window, when we bought Rafa van der Vaart, we had Champions League money. When we started to pay Gareth Bale more money, we had Champions League money. I think the club is in a position financially where we can compete without even having European competition. Because there's so much. I know Levy will want that revenue, but I don't think we're as desperate as we used to be.
No way. There's no way that the football club want to be without European football. No matter what type of European football it is, there is no way that the football club want to be without European football. No way.
Yes, but Levy can put pressure on Ange, and he'll give him his targets, but Ange can say to him, listen, you've lowered my wage bill by 31 million last summer. You've sold Harry Kane, who was the club's best player for years. He saved Jose, he saved Conte, he saved Nuno, time and time again. How many games did we win because we had Harry Kane, and we used to say, thank God we have Harry Kane? How many games? And he's playing with 18-year-olds. He spent money. Yes, he spent money because he had to. We had to spend this kind of money, and not to not to overtake our opposition. It's to become close to them.
But
we need to spend double. We need to spend double.
Why about 18-year-olds? 18-year-olds is what Ange brought in. That is exactly what he brought in. It's what the football club brought in. Stop keep saying about how old these players are. That is the squad. That is what he wanted.
Okay. We say we have young players, and he's not playing them at the moment. And we say 18-year-olds because they're on the bench. They're not playing. They're not producing what we need them to produce at the moment. For example, let's say we have Bergvall, who can be a bright player, but he's not playing week in, week out. He's not, playing in front of the defense and shoring up the defense and giving us, 10 out of 10 performances like Moussa Dembele used to do. He's not. He's on the bench. He's still young. He's still learning the Premier League. He's still adjusting to the Premier League. That's why Solanke really made sense, because he came in and he's scoring and he's picking up goals. We still have a very young squad, and the only way we can grow as a football club if he buys ready-made players for the Premier League. The first thing our next signing needs to be is a higher age of 24 and has over 300 appearances, preferably in the Premier League, because that's the only way we're going to improve immediately. Otherwise, we're going to have to stay in this project youth and wait 2-3 years, and the fans don't want that. The fans want to be excited now. The guys that goes to the games. I'm coming to a game in January, and I'm struggling to excite myself for these games, because I'm thinking, what type of game am I going to go watch? Am I going to go watch a young side with potential, or am I going to go watch my side fight for 11th place, fight for 12th, or fight to go back up the table? I had to look at the table today, and we're in 11th. Oh, with a win, we can be in 10th. Let's remember one thing. Arsenal went through this. Arsenal had to sell and get rid of their high-wage players. They stayed a couple of years in 8th position, and they hated Arteta for a long time. They went through this, and we're going through it now. And we are going through it now. That's why in August, I told you, Chris, I thought we were going to struggle. I did say in August, I don't think it's going to take... I didn't think it'd be this bad, to be honest. But I knew we would have a wobble. I just think we need to get through this time without, trying to bite each other's heads off. We just have to get through it, get the injured players back, recoup, see what positions we need to strengthen in January, and we go again. And then we'll see which players shine. Let's see what Romero does when he comes back. Let's see what Van de Ven does when he comes back. What Vicario does when he comes back, and see which players step up that are currently in the team. Let's see what Son's going to do in the next game. Is he going to score? There's question marks need to be asked about Son as well.
Craig, let's come to you. On the starting 11 and the sub bench, from the players that obviously played today, what positives do you take out of today going into next week for the Newcastle game?
God.
Do you know what? I'm trying here, and I just feel like every single time one of you say something, I just feel really frustrated. I feel like I want to just keep biting people's heads off, because I don't agree with a lot of what has been said today. I just feel really frustrated with everything.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, I don't know what it's like for the people watching. Obviously, we try and give balanced opinions and give our own opinions. I certainly, I don't go with what's in the chat. I always say my opinions, rightly or wrongly, whether mine's going to agree with somebody in the chat or not. Obviously, I can see all the comments. What positives? There's very few, if I'm honest. Kulusevski, like I say, is the only player that I actually think could actually do something for us at the moment. Solanke's running, he does so much work and gets so little chances from his toils. It must be so frustrating for him as a centre forward, because I thought he would get a lot more goals than he's got already this season. Crosses coming in. It just hasn't worked out like that. I would imagine the players are scratching their heads as well as to why things are falling apart so badly. I must admit, I didn't see this happening at the beginning of the season. You see other other channels would have said from the summer almost that Ange is a fraud. Ange isn't the man for Tottenham. But it's so easy to say that because we've had a string of unsuccessful managers. I think that's, it's so easy to turn around and say, oh, so-and-so shit, so-and-so, he's not going to do very well. It's easy. It's so easy to say that, commenting on people, because more often than not, you're going to be right. Sadly, that's what it is. We've seen it down, we haven't won a trophy since 2008. And that's why I think if Ange did win a trophy, he would be up there, wouldn't he? Because you can't deny it. But I just think Liverpool are so strong at the moment. I think you say I'm looking for positives going into Newcastle, let alone Liverpool. I can't see us turning Newcastle over, let alone Liverpool. I just think the way we're going at the moment is just such a bad feeling, and the fan base is split on who's to blame. The players certainly got to take the blame. Ange's got to take the blame. Levy and the board have got to take the blame. The way the club's run. Look, they've done a brilliant job off the field. I don't know how many times we've said that. The stadium, the training, everything else they do, money piling into the club. All we want to see is that money spent in the right areas. And time again, we don't see it. We don't see it enough. How many transfer windows are we here doing podcasts saying we're 2 or 3 players short? That for me is the most frustrating thing.
Every season, brother.
Absolutely, Rick. And it's 2 transfer windows every year. And at the end of every single one of them, we say we're still a bit short. What does that say to you? And it's not just one manager. It's not just Ange. It's Jose. It's Conte. Nuno even. Who, by the way, is up there almost at the top of the Premier League at the moment. I don't know what else to say, Chris.
Do you see progression?
At the moment, you can't say I can't sit here hand on heart and say we have progressed because of our league position. I can't see us making Europe, and that's going to be a massive problem again next season if we don't make Europe. Even Conference League, was it go down to 7th? I can't see us finishing 7th at the moment. I can't see it. I know a couple of wins, you get up there, and you get a couple of players back, some key players. We might go on a run. But you've got to be beating teams like Ipswich. You've got to be beating teams like Wolves at home. I could reel them off. We all know the results. That's the sort of games that should be your bankers. There's no shame in losing to Liverpool, the way Liverpool are playing at the moment. But your bread and butter has got to be the teams like the ones we've lost to, sadly, and drop points against. And it's just not good enough.
Craig, let's stay with you for a second. Let's move on to the game. I know we're nearly an hour and 10 minutes into the podcast and we've not even spoken about the game yet. In the 8th minute, Wolves took the lead 1-0. And what frustrated me more than anything today is the fact that Wolves scored from a set piece. Now, before the game, I often do a lot of videos, post them out on YouTube. One of the videos that I did today was the players warming up. And one thing that I noticed from the stands, and I videoed it, so you can go and watch it on the channel. Wolves, they spent so much time before the game practicing set pieces. Very similar to the goal that they scored after 8 minutes. What did you make of this goal?
Like you say, it was obviously a pre-planned move. I just thought there should always be somebody on the edge of the area. You can see the players all in front of you at a set piece. That's the thing for me. And the guy that scored, I can't remember who it was. Huang, was it? Yep. He made a brilliant run across the D there, and he was so open, and nobody tracked him. Now, for me, that's one of the things is easy to do because a player's standing still. From a starting position, he's standing still. There should have been somebody getting out there to block that shot, and it just wasn't good enough. It wasn't the most clever set piece, was it? It wasn't like there was massive movement. It was quite a simple set piece, to be honest, but he had so much space. And like Forster didn't have a chance for that. Just a great finish and a good set piece from Wolves, but bad defending from Spurs again.
What did you make of us defensively today, Craig?
overall it was okay. Like I say, the second goal was a bit of a worldie. It was just a smash and hope, and the way he hit it, 9 times out of 10 they probably go over the bar or wide, and it just sailed past Forster, probably at breakneck speed. But I mean, defensively, for the fact we've got Archie Gray at centre back, who's not a centre back, Udogie, who looked a bit off it anyway for me. Porro looks tired. Dragushin obviously not 100% fit. I don't think it was terrible. I really don't think it was terrible defensively. But look, we drew the game. It actually feels like a loss. I nearly said we lost the game, but we drew the game. So, God, this is so difficult, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to.
We're up to 11th because we were 12th. So we've gone up a place by a point. Yeah, incredible.
But look, you got to look at. It's not just the defence. Obviously, defend as a team, and the midfield was the midfield good enough today. At certain points, there were certain points today where we were so wide open in the middle, and that's Wolves playing for us. With respect to Wolves, it's not like Liverpool or City or Chelsea. It's there's a lot of work to be done still at this club.
Ricky, let's come to you on that same goal. Wang Chan scoring the opening goal of the game. What did you make of it?
It was a good goal. It was a good goal. Well done to them. I mean, it was a great strike by them. They taking it short, caught us out by half a second, and I think that allowed the gaps in there. But what was really impressive to me is that the boys did not let their heads drop. And they actually went. We've been here before, where we've been in runs of games and runs of results that are not going our way. And as soon as we conceded that first goal, it's going to be one of those days. But the boys picked themselves up straight away. They were on it straight away, and they kept working and they kept pushing to go and get that equalizer. And that's what really impressed me. They didn't let their heads drop. Could have done better, maybe, but. It's almost a lazy opinion from me to kind of go, he could have done better. Chris, you've played in goal, like maybe you have a bit more insight on the goal itself, as in saving it. But it was a good move. It was a quick move. You was asking Craig about improvements. The beginning of the season, even though the results wasn't there, you could start to see how they were building on what last year brought. So the corner routines, we started varying up our corner routines. We wasn't just taking inverted or in-swinging or out-swinging corners. We started to shape it up, and we started to take shorter corners. It was the same with the free kicks. We started to vary those things up. But we just don't have the options, bro. Like, I think these boys are desperate to win. I think they're desperate to put this behind us. I think they're desperate for the fans, for themselves, and for the manager to put this right. And I think an example of that is the opportunity that Solanke and Bentancur had. It was a great ball across the box. And, they got in each other's way because they were so determined, and they wanted to kind of get ahead and get us on the road of winning again. So for me, it was a really good goal for Wolves to have scored. Could we have done more? Of course we could have. But it was the response from me that I took some confidence from. It was the response that they wasn't going to lay down and they wasn't going to let their heads drop. They were actually going to go out there and fight to the last. Come on. Look, do you know what the thing is? All right.
I'll tell you what. Hold on, Rick. Hold on. Ricky, you're bang on. Chris hasn't got a clue. I'll tell you what. Let me ask Ricky a question now. Ricky, do you remember the Christian Gross season, 97-98?
What are you doing to me here, bro?
Come on.
You think today's not bad enough?
Go on. The 97-98 season under Christian Gross. What do you remember about it?
Oh, I can't remember a lot about it, bro.
No, because it was bloody terrible. Right?
Yeah.
So, point average during that season was 1.29.
Right.
Under Ange Postecoglou this season, 1.26.
Okay.
That is the worst.
So what are you saying, that Aussie's a better manager at that time?
I'm just saying, Francis just said, you're bang on and I haven't got a clue.
Well, do you know what, Chris? Though you could find 17 other comments down there that are saying that I am just a happy clapper, and you're the one chatting sense today.
Oh, we're all getting crap in the comments, yeah.
But this is the split of the fans. Now, if you want to talk about Aussie and that period of time, you know, different style of football. I mean, it was attacking, but it was different style of football, different quality of players, but a lot of the same problems were around us at that time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We conceded about the same amount of goals, yeah.
And even Chris, you speak about Klinsmann being your most favourite signing. Yeah, the last time that we signed somebody of world-class quality was Klinsmann from you, right? And you've said that many a times. But who did we have around it, bro? We might have had Ginola and Les Ferdinand and Teddy at times, but there was a whole heap of rubbish as well, mate. There was a whole heap of not very good quality, because where was we battling at that point? We were battling right at the bottom of the table. And I remember growing up not having a hope, bro. That's why the Worthington Cup was so special to me, 1999. And then the Carabao 2008, I think it was. I'm rubbish with dates, so forgive me if I get that wrong. But those two glimmers of hope were massive for me, because there was none for me growing up. You know, the reason why Ginola is my most favourite player, because in a poor team, he came in and he played with a smile and a swagger, and he scored some phenomenal goals. And that bit of happiness, that much of happiness, was what I took. Do you know what I mean? We've had loads of different peaks in these last couple of years. Angie's got a different set of problems, and I think that it comes down to what we've all been really saying. I always come on here and I say it doesn't matter whether you agree with me or not. If you love this club, if you read and you watch and you invest as much time and as much energy and as much heartache as all of us do, then whatever your opinion is, you're right, because you view it in a certain way and you've seen something that is wrong, and so you're right. So I'm not going to disagree, but I just see it differently. We're not in our D-list stage. It's easy to say that. I think it's easy to say that. You got to remember what the Premier League looked like at that stage of time, and you got to remember what we looked like, and you got to remember what we was aiming for. We had no goals at that stage, bro. Klinsmann came in. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm going from memory.
That makes it even worse.
Did we not sign Klinsmann to get us out of relegation trouble?
But that makes it even worse.
But did we not sign Klinsmann on loan the first time to get us out of relegation trouble?
No, that was the second time.
Okay, so the second time.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about here? Do you know what I mean? You bring in a world-class player not to go and for us to achieve, but to get us out of relegation. This is where we've been. This is who we've been for a long time.
People have just said I'm rattled. I've just given you a couple of stats. They're facts. I think facts. I think it's you that are rattled.
Bruv, we're all rattled. Are you joking? I'm rattled. Craig's rattled. Mel's rattled. We're all rattled because we don't like this. We don't like having to sit here and kind of go, oh my gosh, again? What, the same problems again? Like, nah, like, come on. Like, the hex or the curse has to be lifted at some point. And that's why we're going up against each other. We could bring in stats and facts to kind of validate. I can't say any words today. Validate our own arguments. We can bring in stats and left, right, and center, bro. Left, right, and center. You know, but it comes down to the same problems.
I now know I'm in trouble because my dad has just messaged me saying you're speaking so abruptly to your guests. So
no, it's all right. Speak with your heart, Chris. You're allowed to speak with your heart too, man. So am I. Do you know what I mean? Speak with your heart, bruv. Let the fans know. Let us all know. You're the one that goes to every single game. Home, away, under 21s, under 18s, women, under 16s. You go to it all, bruv. If anyone deserves to be angry, upset, and frustrated, or if any opinion we should listen to, it should be yours, because you're there in the stadium, feeling it, seeing it, and experiencing it every single game. We come on these pods, and it's tough for me to come on today and to try and defend Ange and the boys again. But I saw them play for each other, and I saw them play for the manager. So I'm going to stand beside the boys, and I'm going to stand beside the manager, and I'm looking, even though I can see the results of what they are, I'm looking to stand with them, to support them through the toughest time and the best time. Do you know what I mean? Because I believe that there's and I have got faith and I believe, and you know what that is? You don't need evidence to believe and to have faith, but I do. I have faith and I believe that once we get through this, that there are brighter days ahead. There is a successful team here under him. And I know right now it makes no sense, right? It makes no bloody well sense. So for me, bruv, you're allowed to be as angry, as abrupt, and especially with us. We're your friends. We're your boys. So you're allowed to let it out. That's what this podcast is about. It's about letting it out. It's about letting the fans know around the world, because they are around the world listening to us right now. We're expressing our frustrations, our anger, our upsetness, and you're allowed to too, bruv. You can't just be host mode and be robotic. You're not Sky Sports, bruv. Do you know what I mean? Thank goodness you're not Sky. So say how you feel. Say what you mean. Say how you feel, and don't be apologetic for it to anybody.
Yeah, most of the comments have called me grumpy as well. So apologies.
That's allowed. Everyone's grumpy today. Everyone's grumpy today.
Yeah, you're not going to be happy. That's the thing. You know, we all want the same thing, right? And people in the comments say, "Oh, Craig's talking shit, Ricky's talking shit, Melvin's talking shit, Chris is off his head." You know what I mean? We've all got different opinions.
Yeah, but some of them are right about you lot.
Yeah, abuse Chris in the chat. Yeah. Oh God, I can't. I'll give you a laugh. You've got to cry, haven't you? Jesus Christ, this club. Honestly, it's going to drive us all into an early grave, mate. Seriously. Although, would you rather? Let me ask you a question. Would you rather be a Tottenham fan, a West Ham fan, or a Man United fan?
Tottenham all day, bruv.
So you think we're in a better position than Manchester United? I do.
Yeah.
Certainly West Ham. You know. So
and also look at. I mean, I don't want to bring in other teams, but you look at Chelsea last year, right? And they spent nearly £1 billion on players. They just couldn't stop spending money, and we looked at them going, "Oh, you know what? They're a bit of a basket case." But they spent that money, and they went through it. They went through a tough period, and they started to pick up some points with Pochettino. And then look what they've done with their new manager. They bought a manager that comes in that plays the same style that they want to play, but to push them on. But those players that have been there for a year have now kind of settled in and kind of they're showing their quality, you know? So there's so many things, man. There's so many things. It's really tough to say to any Tottenham fan right now to keep the faith and to keep believing and to go through this, right? To go through this. But I believe that we'll get to the sunshine. Do you know what I mean? And maybe that's naive. Maybe that's me being happy clapper. But I will prefer to stand beside my players and my manager and my club than to stand against them. I can't stand against them. I can't stand with the board because right now, the ins and outs of the last 20 years, they keep hitting the domino. Every time we do 2 things right, there are 4 things that are wrong. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we're playing catch up with this rebuild. We're playing catch up with the board, and that's why they've got to get us ahead of the game right now. Get us ahead of the game. Let's have something from you guys. Let's be having you, the board. Let's be having you. You know what I mean?
Melvyn, let's come to you. As I mentioned, Spurs went 1-0 down after 8 minutes. It was a fairly quick reply. Bentancur's header in the 12th minute made it 1-1. Pedro Porro with a fantastic corner in and equally as good a header in the back of the net from Bentancur. Of course, we'll talk about this later on, but he received a yellow card today, meaning that he will get a 1-match suspension, which is very, very unfortunate. But what a great header. What a great equaliser for us. Melvyn.
Yeah, I mean, we need our midfielders to score. We need players that contribute, and for Bentancur to come back from his long suspension and contribute with a goal was what we needed. Brought us back in the game, and brought the spirits up, and it's what we need from our players. We need players that contribute with goals and assists. Otherwise, what's the point of them playing? You know, it was interesting that when his suspension was over, Bissouma was benched immediately, and then he was brought in. I thought that was I know Bissouma was probably tired and needed rest, and he brought him in because Bentancur was rested. But in the first game, he looked a bit out of shape and needed match fitness. So today he played a lot better. He played really well, actually, and I thought he was probably one of our best players in the middle today. And to contribute with the goal made it even sweeter. So, yeah, I'm a massive fan of Bentancur. I always said, and I always praised him a lot. And when he had his ACL injury, I was gutted and very disappointed for him. You know, he went through a difficult summer with you know, we all know what he did. And now to be back and playing football, and we need him to be. It's disappointing with the yellow card, because now it's another hurdle, another player that misses another game. But we cannot seem to catch a break with these things. You know, it's just one thing after another. You know, last week it was Spence getting you know, a silly yellow, and now Bentancur the same. I know at times he showed you know, a bit of aggressiveness that we missed. You know, Romero used to show that kind of aggressiveness. It's that Latin fight that some of these players have. You know, Romero used to do it. You know, come out, win the ball, have a massive tackle. Even sometimes you do get booked with these things, but when he wins the ball like that and stops them from getting an attack, sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. Today he got the yellow for the suspension, which is a shame. But it's a shame, but because we need more players like him at the moment. We need players that are gonna, you know, go in for the tackle. At one moment, I saw Johnson win the ball with a sliding tackle, and I was thinking, we need more players like this. We need more players that are up for the fight. I know they're tired, but they need to sometimes dig deep, you know, take a breath and get through these games. It's like today's disappointing, but they will learn from it. All the players will learn from it. Hopefully we improve on the mistakes and we don't keep making the same mistakes. I feel that that's why we get angry and snappy at each other, because we keep talking about the same mistakes, the same conceded goals, the same problems. And it sometimes makes for arguments, because we're going in circles at point in time. So that's what I thought with Bentancur and the whole situation of the game today.
Craig, let's come to you. There's a super chat here. It says nothing will change if the board doesn't change its approach. Spend more smartly on the football side of the business, e.g. world-class medical team. On the medical side, of course, Spurs have changed a number of the medical side in the last 18 months since Ange Postecoglou has been there. But, you know, going back to the question that I asked Ricky, I suppose, when Ange Postecoglou plays this style of football, I suppose you are going to have a number of injuries. And a number of people in the chat have said that, you know, there were a lot of injuries at Celtic during Ange Postecoglou's time there because we play such high-intensity football. And doesn't that make the transfer window that little bit more important? If you are playing this way, you've got to have top-quality players on the pitch, off the pitch. You know, the depth needs to be so much better.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to address something Melvyn said there. I think it was a Freudian slip, because he mentioned about somebody having a big tackle, and I'm sure he didn't mean that. I'm not sure how that would help the team, but yeah, I'm sure he meant putting in a big tackle rather than having a big tackle. So it just tickled me. Sorry, I have to find something to laugh. It did. It did. Sorry, it just tickled me, and I need something to laugh about at the moment. But, yeah, no, look, absolutely. And that's what we've been saying for ages. You've got to have a big squad, a capable squad, and players coming in and out, and it doesn't weaken the team. At the moment, it's clear to see when we haven't got our first choice starting 11 playing, the form dips and the quality dips, and it's just not good enough. You know, let alone losing your number one goalkeeper. I kind of sympathise a bit about the goalkeeper, because not many clubs have, and it's very difficult to keep two very, very good goalkeepers happy. On the whole, Fraser Forster has done okay. I think he's obviously had a couple of gaffes. That Liverpool game he'll want to forget. But on the whole, he's not been terrible. Not been as bad as perhaps all of us thought. But across that squad, we need massive improvements. The medical team, I don't actually feel I'm qualified enough to talk about the medical stuff because I'm not a doctor. I don't know enough about it. I would hope that the medical team are doing their best to make sure players aren't going out there and getting re-injured at the risk of re-injury. But you just don't know. You just don't know what's going on. Are players being rushed back? Is the manager asking for the players to be rushed back? I don't think he does. I mean, Christ knows what's going on with Mikey Moore. That virus he's had, whatever that was over a month ago. So what on earth is going on there? I don't know, because I thought he was going to be back next week. Looks like he's not now. Richarlison is the only one I believe that's going to be back. And is that going to help us? A little bit, but I don't know. I don't know. It's a mess, Chris, is what it is, and it feels like the end of the world. But look, we're still in 4 competitions. You could argue we're not in the league. We're nowhere near the league. Of course, we're not. But it's a funny old season.
Does it surprise you when I read that stat out about the average points that it is now below Christian Gross in that 97-98 season, Craig?
It certainly does. I don't know where we were in the league that year, Chris, because obviously each season is different. And like I say, it's a funny old season this season because teams are beating each other up and down the league. And I think a lot of perhaps like you'd say, the lower teams have been doing look at Forest. Some people tipped Forest to go straight back down. I mean, they're doing unbelievably well. So there's teams above us that on paper you say they shouldn't be above Tottenham. They're above Tottenham because they're playing better than Tottenham.
Yeah.
So, it's not just us in this position. There's some big teams in and around us that are not doing well either. But yeah, that does surprise me about the Christian Gross season because that was horrific.
Ricky, let's come to you. On 23 minutes, Brennan Johnson crossing from the right, which was cleared. That resulting corner put in by Pedro Porro, and it resulted in Radu Dragushin heading the ball just wide. What have you made of Radu Dragushin? Of course, this was him attacking the ball, but what have you made of him defensively? Because he has been given a good run of games because of the injuries to both Romero and Van der Ven. What have you made of him in a Spurs shirt, particularly this season?
It's been a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest, Chris. The first couple of games that he started, they were very kind of shaky. There were certain passes and certain maneuvers that left us exposed. He's had to build a new partnership with Archie Gray. With him and Davies, it started to look, oh, good. Please keep it under 45 minutes in just one question. I can't. What's that? Skunk Works. Big up Skunk Works, but you've just delayed my answer by another 5 minutes. Just let you know. See, I forgot the question as well.
Right, let's move on.
All right, go on, move on. I can't remember what the question was.
Have you really forgotten the question?
What was the question?
No, if you can't remember it, don't worry about it.
I can't remember it. I read that and it's totally gone. My my train of thought is gone.
Right, Ricky, I'll give you another one. On 26 minutes, Destiny Udogie was trying to be clever, trying to see the ball out. Wolves then, with their great pressing, got the ball back, won the ball back. It nearly resulted in a goal. Does that type of defending frustrate because it just seemed so simple?
Yeah. Of course Of course that's frustrating, bro. Of course that's frustrating. You just want them to get it out sometimes, but then there's times that they kick it out and it goes straight back to an opposition player and they start to break on us. So there's times when playing it out looks very risky and it looks like we're inviting a goal or we're inviting an attack. But then there's times where we hoof it out and they get it back straight away and they break on us in an attack. So it's just, it is frustration FC managed by Craig Dearman. That's what it is right now.
Melvyn, let's come to you. God, I can't believe it.
Big up Scubworks.
On 30 minutes, Melvyn, across from the right, two Spurs players colliding with one another. It just seemed like a comedy moment. How on earth can that happen in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's two players wanting to score. You know, Solanke thought he could reach it, and he obviously didn't see Bentancur coming. I don't know who the pass was intended for. Thinking Kulusevski probably wanted to link up with Solanke again. You know, with his striker. Turned out to be offside at the end, but it was a good attack. But shame about the offside.
Bentancur should have been screaming to leave it because he was in a better position and he had everything in front of him. So if he didn't call, you know, Solanke's going to go for it.
And they were desperate to score.
Yeah.
Melvyn, on 35 minutes, Wolves had a chance. Cunha shot wide from range. Radu Dragusin was given the ball away at that point a number of times, I've written here. Cunha, he's been linked with a move to Spurs. He's one hell of a player. Would you like to see him in a Spurs shirt, or is that a silly question?
No, I would take him because obviously he's in fine form, scoring, Premier League experience. But you would think would Wolves sell him to you? You need to overpay. You need to pay if the asking price is 30 or he's worth 30. You need to pay 40 to get him in January. You know. In the Premier League, it's difficult to get, especially a player in fine form, to get him because, you know, it will cost Wolves a lot of money if they get relegated. So you need to really pay a lot of money to get him. He fits our style of play. You know, he would fit perfectly in our system. Someone who's scoring. I'll leave it with transfers. I always say the same thing. I leave it to Postecoglou, especially because I think he can spot a player, especially in a system. My concern at the moment is if we're gonna buy in January for Postecoglou, we need to stick with him till the rest of the season and especially next season, because I don't want to be buying players for the wrong manager again. You know, I don't want to go through that again. If we're gonna buy someone in January, especially, it needs to be a right fit for the project. There's no point of buying a player just for the hell of it. If it's not a player for the right system that's going to play and be a long-term player for us, just to bring, let's say people are calling for us to bring a goalkeeper, you know, it needs to be the right signing, and it needs to, and it's tricky because, like you said, the good players won't leave, and especially from the Premier League. I don't know if Fabio Paratici is still involved, if he's going to do any tricks from Serie A, buy any players from there. But I don't know, Spurs need to work their magic. And the way the club operated last summer, some transfers were done really, really quietly and really quickly. And I am hoping for the same thing because everything's quite quiet on the January transfer window at the moment. So you hear some whispers here and there, but you don't know what's real and what's, you know, being made up by transfer websites and stuff like that. But I secretly hope that things are happening in the background and Spurs are just good at keeping them quiet.
Well, I can tell you that Fabio is actually at the game today because I walked past him in the corridor, so he is definitely there. And Johan Langer it seems that he's at every game. I met him again at Nottingham Forest a couple of days ago. So hopefully they will be very, very busy, and also
Chris,
Scott Munn as well.
Chris, any news on Fabio's ban? Any news on that? Hasn't it been a year and a half or 2 years? Has the time passed?
No, not yet.
No. How much time has passed? I think a year or a year and a half.
Yeah, there's still some months to go yet.
Okay.
Craig, let's come to you. On 39 minutes, Basuma shot over the bar following a Spurs corner. And then on 43 minutes, Spurs were awarded a penalty. First of all, was it a penalty in your opinion?
I'd have to say yes. I mean, you've seen them given, you've seen them not given, but it was probably in that sort of grey area, but it probably more than not. I mean, the important thing was that you convert them when you get them. And of course, we didn't. Son had his penalty saved, but yeah, it was probably just a penalty for me. Yeah.
What do you think of the penalty itself, Craig? Because it's quite rare for Heung-min Son to miss such a glorious chance.
Yeah, because it's all the, the normal things people say, good height for a keeper. I mean, it was in the corner enough. I just think the keeper had done his homework on Son. Son, more often than not, will go low or to the keeper's right. That's Harry Kane's favourite position as well. A lot of right-footed players go that side, to be honest. It's easy to wrap your foot around and put it in that corner. But, of course, if you're going to do that and persist with that, it's got to be hard and it's got to be in the right spot and right near the post. And it just wasn't quite good enough. Like I say, Sonny, this season, they did put a graphic up on the screen. Most of his penalties were to that side. There was one down the other side. So he's obviously gone with his favourite position. Keeper's done his homework. And he's made the save. So look, people miss penalties all the time. You can't be perfect. Obviously, I think only Matt Letizia was missed one during his whole career. But yeah, I think you have to say good save, but it wasn't the best penalty I've ever seen Son take.
Craig, let's stay with you because right at the end of the first half in stoppage time, Brennan Johnson put Spurs 2-1 up. What fantastic work from Dejan Kulusevski yet again. And I don't think there's any question or doubt that he has been our best player throughout the whole of this campaign so far at this halfway point. What did you make of the goal? Because a great cutback. Brennan Johnson, of course, scores again. Fantastic goal scoring form he's in as well for Spurs.
Yeah, I think it was Johnson that played it to Kulusevski. It was like quite a long one too, wasn't it? In essence, even though Kulusevski had a couple of touches, that Kulu again has been the shining light for me. Johnson, with his goals, people say he doesn't do a lot defensively, which I agree with. But if you're coming up with goals and winning us games, then it doesn't really matter as much. Unfortunately, we're not winning games, but that was a good move. It was a great finish. Wandered into the box, totally unmarked, and Kulu had the vision and class to pick him out, and got the goal. And at that point, I thought, okay, we're going to kick on and perhaps nick another one. But we all know what happened. So, yeah, good to see Johnson get another goal. Great move, good play by Kulusevski, but ultimately was for nothing.
So, of course, Spurs went in at half-time, 2-1 up. Shortly after the half-time break, Ricky, Destiny Udogie went off injured, limping off. What I found weird is the fact that he was allowed to just limp off rather than go off on a stretcher, which I hope that doesn't put any more strain on his injury. And Postecoglou has confirmed that it is a hamstring issue and an hamstring injury, which, how long he's going to be out is unknown at the moment. Reguilon came on for his first Premier League appearance since April 2022. Ricky, first of all, this is going to be a big blow for Spurs. Destiny Udogie out for some time. And also, what did you make of Sergio Reguilon back in a Spurs shirt in the Premier League?
It's definitely going to be a massive blow that Udogie's going to be out. He hasn't been able to get his rhythm back after his injury in the summer. So, it's tough for Udogie. He's another young player asked to do a lot of work. And so, obviously his muscles are broken down in this instance. Do I think he should have come off on a stretcher? Yeah, for me, probably yes. But some players want to walk off because of pride and they want to kind of show to the crowd at that point and to the cameras and to those at home that it's not that bad. I'm all right. I'm walking off. But that's more pride. That's more players' pride than it is a good idea. He should have come off on the stretcher. Absolutely. Save those hamstrings as much as he can, With Reggie coming back, again, it's tough because Reggie knows that he's not wanted. It's blatantly obvious for the past 3 seasons that he hasn't been wanted at the club. Under different managers, under different systems. So it must be tough for him to kind of keep his head in the game and keep professional. There was many talks of him going not just the summer gone, but this January coming up. So again, an area of the pitch that we left ourselves short with in the summer. When we lost Udogie last year, we saw how much of an impact that had on us and how much we needed another left back at the very least to, one, compete with him, two, to rotate with him, and three, to kind of, if something like this happens, that we've got a ready-made player to come into that position and somebody that the manager wants. Reggie done okay, but there was one sliding tackle. He missed it, fortunately, but there was one bit of kind of panic, which reminded me why I think a couple of managers don't want him at Spurs. There was a point, I can't remember which Wolves player had it, but he had it on the right-hand side, and Reggie came from nowhere, and he just, he sprinted to him, full pelt, waiting for a sliding challenge, and the Wolves player took it around him and carried on progressing. And it was those type of challenges that I think hurt him when he did play for us on a regular basis. So it's difficult, bro. It's difficult because here's a player that, from a fan's point of view, I think majority haven't got too many bad things to say about him. They've got some critiques, but not too many bad things. But at the same time, the club and the manager don't want him, and they've made it blatantly obvious. So it's another mess of a situation that we're in, and it's another quandary that we have to solve. Yeah, and it's a tough one. I felt that he done okay. He didn't do terrible. I felt that he done okay, but at the same time, he didn't put in a performance which made me say, let's sign him on another couple of year contract and let's keep him for the rest of the season.
Stu Miller, thank you so much for your supportive comment of the panel and the podcast. I always notice your name come up, so thank you so much for being involved in a lot of the podcasts that we do. Equally so, I notice a lot of the same names in the chat, game after game after game. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support of the podcast. Melvyn, let's come to you. On 58 minutes, Wolves had a shot over the bar from 20 yards. On 62 minutes, Wolves attack. So much space on the right-hand side. Pedro Porro eventually blocked. Nice to see Pedro Porro back in the starting 11 today. What did you make of his performance? And when I mentioned there about so much space on one side, I mentioned to Craig earlier, I asked him about us defensively today. Does it still worry you about us defensively under Ange Postecoglou and this attitude of don't worry about how many we can see, don't worry about clean sheets, we'll go up the other end and score more goals? Is that a worry for you, or is it just part of the exciting football that we play?
Yeah, it worries me. I mean, Pedro Porro, I remember early last season, in the beginning, it was really sharp, scoring, assisting. And then at the tail end of the season, he kind of fell off a cliff and he was exhausted. And it showed that if he's well rested and rotated, which we hadn't had the luxury to do this season, he's a good player. But this season, it just seems to be he's hit or miss. He's often too focused on the attack and doesn't focus on the defense. His positioning is very poor at times. How many times do we concede from his side? And equally, Destiny Udogie. I'm worried about the left back and right back position, to be honest with you, Chris. I think we're constantly exposed on those sides. I also think teams come up and they know our weaknesses and they set up to exploit our weaknesses. I think everybody knows where we're weak and how to score against us. So every single Premier League team does their homework. They see when Porro runs, where he runs. Same with Destiny, the position they occupy, and they're trying to exploit these things. And we're not learning from our mistakes. That's the only thing that annoys me a little bit. I know we're playing the same players now, so these players have to get better. They have to improve. They have to learn. They cannot keep making the same mistakes. And I feel with Pedro, as much as I really like him as a player, and I like his attacking output, and when he scores or does a good assist or a good cross, I'm buzzing about it. But you're a defender at the end of the day. You need to really shore things up at the back. You need to make sure we don't concede first. It's no point. I know Postecoglou doesn't think this way, but for me, I think it's no point us conceding and then scoring. I'd love for us to keep more clean sheets. I would love for us to be that kind of team that wins 2-0, wins 1-0, wins 3-0. I hate when we concede. It's not what I feel. Even though we've won big games, and where like the United game in the League Cup recently, where we just scored more than them and we managed to get it over the line. But I worry about our defense, especially with Romero having missed a lot of the season, him being on 2 years left in his contract next summer, I believe. Real Madrid fishing around for Romero. Romero making comments, at the press and about the board. If the football club is not ambitious, our big players will leave. And I feel that Romero is probably the one that will leave first if we're not being ambitious and we don't match his ambition. And I feel Romero is one of the players that really wants to win the Champions League. I think he said it somewhere in an interview or someone said it online. I don't know the source, but he won the World Cup, Romero. And when you win something that big, you want to win, something equally as big with your football club. And if Real Madrid come for Romero, I feel he's one of the players that will want to leave. So we need to show ambition, and we need to become one of the team that competes. Otherwise, our big players will leave, and it will be 2 steps forwards and 1 step back, which is constantly the same story at Spurs. It's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or one step forward, 2 step back.
What do you think of the stats, Melvyn? Because Matt writes here, thanks for your comment, Matt. 11 clean sheets in nearly 60 games isn't anywhere good enough. And Mike writes here, but guys, we're not scoring enough goals now because, it's all right if you're conceding goals, but you're scoring more, but we're not.
I think when it's this sort of thing, it all stems from the manager. You remember me and you talking about, Jose and Conte and they're this defensive managers, and they win leagues based on defense. Jose is famous for this. He says, if you score, all you need to score is 1 goal more than the opposition, and you win. But they built their philosophy and their whole thing about being solid at the back, and it's not. And our manager is not that type of manager. So if you're behind Postecoglou, which I am, and I'm behind his philosophy, but don't get me wrong, there's other philosophies that work too. But if you want to adapt a certain philosophy, you need to be all in. So if we want Postecoglou's philosophy to work, we need to be all in on this philosophy. Like Ricky said, we need players to be energetic from minute 1 till minute 90. Not stop. We never stop. We need to be all in on this philosophy. But if we're playing at 50%, it's not going to work. It's just not. And why does it work early in the season when the players are fresh and when we have, options on the bench? And now that we're in Christmas time and we have injuries, and this is why people say it's not sustainable. You cannot do it in the Premier League. This is where criticism at Postecoglou needs to be aimed. I'm still a fan, Chris. You know me. I'm behind the manager, but there's criticism and things that you could blame on him. I mean, some of the injuries, he has players on he only rotates when there's an injury. That's my issue with Postecoglou. When his hand is forced, he rotates. Why don't you rotate before? Why don't you rest before? Why isn't Bergvall playing more, for example? It's the kind of season. We're 11th, we're 12th. Play him.
Well,
we're playing Archie Gray.
He does rotate
play
in the
them
cup.
more. Yeah, but he rotated. He played Spence because his hand was forced with injury, and now we're seeing a good young player coming through, shining through. This is the season to take risks with these kind of things. If there's play like Lancashire, why isn't Lancashire getting more minutes? I know I don't want an injury to Solanke. Let's see what Lancashire is about. Why aren't we giving him a chance? Like Harry Kane was given a chance under Tim Sherwood. Let's see if Lancashire is good. give him a few more minutes. I know he scored in the Europa League, and the Europa League is a good. This is why I'm a fan of the Europa League, because we get to see these players play. I'm sure Mikey Moore will get more minutes when he's back from injury, hopefully, and we'll see from there. But there's criticism to be put at Postecoglou, because some of the problems we have at the moment are his fault. But saying that, I'm still behind him, and I feel he's been unlucky with certain things. And even though I hate to say it right now, we have seen certain progress in certain departments of the team. I mean, the goal difference is really good for our position. We have really good goal difference. Where's that out? I mean,
I don't buy the goal difference thing. It's about points.
Yeah, it is about points. But I'm saying that there's been improvements in certain aspects of the team. I mean, we're not blind to these things. Yes, we're not where we want to be at the moment, but there's been some improvements under Postecoglou. But also, there's equally been bad things going on as well, and things that he is responsible for.
It's interesting how you say about the team selection and about certain players not playing. One thing has surprised me, the fact that, we had such an amazing season last year with the under-21s winning 2 trophies at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium back in May. And I would have thought that a lot of those players would have got opportunities. And when you saw as well during pre-season, the main players, or the experienced players, if you like, or the senior players, should I say, when they weren't stepping up in pre-season, a lot of the youngsters did extremely well. And I think that some of those players should have been given more of an opportunity under Postecoglou, particularly when Chairman Daniel Levy said that, Ange Postecoglou is all about the youth system. Yes, he's played a couple of the players, but nowhere near as what I thought he would do, being a manager, apparently wanting to give youth the chance. Yes, we've brought in 18-year-old kids who have done extremely well. Bergvall, it probably wasn't expected that he was going to get a number of opportunities that he's had. Certainly Archie Gray as well. There was even talk about, those guys going out on loan at one point, had the squad stayed fit and well. Craig, let's come to you. On 64 minutes, treble sub from Ange. Son, Johnson, Basuma all going off. Maddison, Timo Werner, Sarr coming on. What did you make of the treble sub? And I'm going to say it again, and I know I'm a big Heung-min Son fan, and I know this podcast does extremely well. We were #1 football podcast in South Korea again this week because, we speak about Heung-min Son, so well, and we absolutely love and adore the guy. I know Melvyn said that he's finished today on the podcast, but, you can see that Heung-min Son has still got that magic in him. Look at him scoring from the corner only a week or so ago against Manchester United. I don't feel like you can write a player off like that. And it was sad for me to see, since the game was finished up until now, on social media, Spurs fans, when I was walking back to the car, it's all about Son and it's all about him being finished. I don't buy it. Do you?
No, I don't think he's finished at all. I think what's happened with Son is he's just got that little bit older. And unfortunately, when a player that good and a sort of game changer, if you like, in the past, when he's not doing it on a regular basis, like we know he has been over the last, God, how long has he been here? 10 seasons, 9 seasons now? When you know what he was, then people get frustrated and think he's finished. When that drops 5-10% as to what we know he's capable of, then people write him off. I don't think that at all. I think his levels have dropped a bit, but as I say, he's been asked to play in a formation, in a system, a type of play that's difficult for a 32-year-old player. And he's probably been asked to play. They've probably used him a lot more than they've wanted to, but for the injuries to other players that can play in that position, like Odegaard, for example. He's probably been overplayed as well. So, no, I'm not writing Heung-min Son off. He is a legend of the club, and that on its own and in isolation is not as good a reason to keep playing him every week. But we do know how good he can be, And I think it's proved when he has had a rest, he's come back and he's played better. It's almost like you can't play 2 games in quick succession now, because you get over 30 and unless you're a freak like Ronaldo, then your performance levels are going to drop. But even the likes of Ronaldo's and the Messis, you look at the work rate Messi does, he's never been a hard-working player. You can never say he's a hard-working player, but he comes alive when he needs to. Heung-min Son's being asked to do a job. That wing play, I mean, you see Brennan Johnson, he's 22 years old, and he looks knackered a lot of the time. So it's hard enough when you're 22, let alone 32. So, but yeah, in answer to your question, Sonny is still a big part of this club. And personally, I hope they extend his contract for another year and he sees out his time at Spurs. But by that stage, you would like to think they've got players in and around him that can take the workload off him and he can still come on and be a game changer.
By the way, my dad is still texting me having a go, saying I'm still being so intense with you all. So apologies. Ricky, I'm going to try and be nicer.
Love
Ricky,
you, Pops.
After 66 minutes, Timo Werner to Dejan Kulusevski to James Maddison, who shot over the bar. What have you made of James Maddison this season? Because he can't be very happy, you know, particularly when we've got this amount of injuries. You know, he wants to be that leader on the pitch. He wants to be that lock picker that we have been missing since the days of Christian Eriksen leaving. Maddison can't be happy being a sub, can he? You know, chances like this, though, you've got to be getting those on target.
Yeah, you've got to be getting those on target. At the same time, with Maddison, Maddison's had a bit of a rocky time since he came back last season from that ankle injury. You know, he didn't come back into form at all last season. There were flashes, and he tried, but you know, he didn't get back into it. You could see, even with the whole England squad thing last season, you know, first half of the season, he was nailed on to be in that England squad. And then second half of the season, it was an easy omission to drop Maddison out. And I think that that affected him. I think that it for want of a better word, and I wish I had a better word, but there seems to be a bit of a sulk in Maddison when he's not playing, or when he is on the bench, or when he does come off the bench. He seems there's not like a, all right, cool, let me show you why I should be in this team. There's almost a, so what, you want me now sort of body language. And there is a better word for that, because I don't think he's sulking, but there is something going on and maybe it just damages his ego a little bit. But you know, we need to see some leadership from him too. You know, if he wants to be that guy, then he needs to kind of show us why. And I think we've had flashes of that. I think he's had some good goals this season, and I think there have been improved performances. But like a lot of our squad, it hasn't been on a consistent basis. I mean, if you ask the fans right now around the world what do they think of Maddison and Maddison's performances this year, I think 50% would say that he's been good, and I think the other 50 would say that he hasn't been good at all. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't been terrible and he hasn't been excellent, but in that middle ground, I think he's a player that splits the fan base as well. So I do believe that. Go on.
But the thing is, Ricky, what I was going to say is consistency with our results and some performance this season. You've got to ask for some consistency from some of these players, because look at the performances and the finishing at somewhere like the Etihad with someone like James Maddison. You know, absolutely brilliant. And then you've got, you know, like a chance, like I mentioned earlier today for Maddison. You've got to be hitting that on target. You have to.
Yeah, no, you do. Absolutely. And maybe those are some of the reasons why he is in and out of the side. But I felt that today, you know, with the midfield of Basuma and Bentancur in there, that they were going a bit more, I know this sounds crazy for Tottenham, but a bit more conservative in that sense. You know, when we go all out attacking, it's Maddison and Kulusevski in the midfield and Johnson on the wing. But that's when we have those options to bring them off and to rotate and to play with the flavour. But I felt that today he brought in Bentancur to be that experience, to have that assuredness and that calmness on the ball at times, and that fight that Melvyn was talking about. and he brought in Basuma as that other box-to-box 8 to kind of to shore it up, but to progress the ball forward. The combination didn't really work, and that's why when Maddison came in, if you're playing a number 10 right now, you're playing Kulu in that position because he's more effective and he makes things happen. You know, he makes things happen when nothing's happening. So his form and his consistency, he has been consistent. You know, he's had a couple of dips, but he's been mostly consistent. So if you're looking at trying to balance the side and to give us a bit more in midfield, then Kulu's got to play that number 10. And that's where the competition and the fight for places comes in. I would think maybe even try Maddison out on the left at times. I know he's played out on the left for Leicester at times. You know, I would give other positions maybe a go for him and see how they go. But at the same time, if he wants his spot, then he's got to be putting away chances like that, like you say, because it's not just the chance, it's the timing of the chance. And it's what it would do to the ebb and flow of the game. And fingers crossed it would have given us some momentum and some confidence to finish that game off, you know. But where it was missed, and it was a good move, but where it was missed, it is almost the same old, where we get to that point, you know, like you said, Solanke's chance missed, you know, this side net in is here. So it just kind of puts that it's not going to be our day-to-day type of energy around, you know. So as a captain, as a leader, you would have hoped for a bit more in today and in today's game when we needed it.
Melvyn, let's come to you. On 77 minutes, we saw, just in the matter of a couple of seconds, the best and the worst of Timo Werner. He put in a great cross into the box. Solanke was just inches away from reaching it. It reminded me of a little bit of the Gaza miss in Euro 96. It was that close. And then the ball came across the other side, and Timo Werner took a swipe at it, completely missed it. And I don't mean the target, I mean the ball. Honestly, I think one of my most common questions, one of them on this podcast this season has been, do you think Ange Postecoglou can improve Timo Werner? I'm never going to ask that question again because I think it's pretty clear. I actually find it quite sad, and I'm not going to sit here just slagging a player off, because I actually found it quite sad. At the end of the game, Timo Werner looked absolutely distraught. He had his head in his hands. You know, I feel like when I saw that, and if you haven't seen it, go and watch the video that I did after the game of the players coming off the pitch. Timo Werner is just standing there on his own. He looks absolutely lost. He looks very, very upset. But honestly, Melvyn, you know, for a professional footballer, someone who's won the Champions League, you do expect a lot more. And as I say, seconds before, he's put in a delightful ball. You know, we've seen him put in some delightful balls into the box. You know, look at the one at the Etihad, you know, beating Kyle Walker and putting in that delightful cross. But, you know, to not be able to strike a ball that comes in, I just, honestly, I'm just lost for words with it.
I can just hear Richard Whitehead. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I can hear Richard Whitehead.
I was with Richard the other day. Can you imagine for 90 minutes of me and Rich talking, Timo Werner had to be 45 at least?
Yeah, he's a player that was brought in on loan. I think there was a reason in the summer we didn't activate the 15 million to buy him and was only brought in on another loan. Yeah, we're struggling at the moment, and we need players like him to produce and do something. And even though he did create a few things, it's not good enough. It's not really good enough. The output wasn't really enough for us to win the game at the end. He didn't do enough. Yeah, he offers pace, he offers speed, he offers something. At the moment, we needed at the end of the game. I thought it was strange that he took off Johnson and brought in Timo, because I thought he would have left Johnson on, because if speed is what he wanted, I think he should have left Johnson on, and perhaps brought Timo as well, having two speedy players on both sides. with the comments I said before about Son being finished, because I saw many things in the chat.
I knew you were worried about that.
I just want to clarify what I mean by that, because
well, you said it,
today
you
how we
finished.
How we played today, right? We had Solanke pressing on the top, Kulusevski chasing after him, and Johnson pressing on the other side. And then the ball gets to the side of Son. And every single time they got through the press, through Son's side. And it wasn't able, Postecoglou's Ange ball works on the dynamic of us being able to win the ball high up the pitch. And that's why we miss people like Van de Ven, Romero, and Udogie when they were at their best, because they were able to win the ball high up the pitch. And we used to, we were always smothering the opponent. The opponent couldn't get out of their box. And that's when the high line, was famously, developed. And that's the pure essence of Ange ball. Just relentless pressing and pressing, winning the ball high up the pitch. And Son couldn't do it today. And I just felt every time we pressed, for the first 40 minutes, we pressed and we pressed and we pressed. And they always went through Son's side. And I was thinking, Son is a good player, obviously. But today he couldn't do it. He couldn't press for 60 minutes. He can't do the job. Like Harry Kane used to have similar problem. We couldn't press with Harry Kane because he cannot do, for example, what Solanke can do. And Son's becoming at an age where 60 minutes he can play, and he has to be subbed off. He's being taken care of by Postecoglou at the moment because he had an injury this season. And I just think when Son went to take the penalty kick, he did not look comfortable for some reason. He was doing this weird motion. It's like he was in his own head. You know what I mean? It's like a normal Heung-min Son would have just went up. That's what made Heung-min Son the best, because he was a killer in that moment. Heung-min Son, when it's like the dying moments of a Champions League game and Son has a chance, half a chance, he buries it. That's the essence of Heung-min Son. And recently he's not been the same player. I remember against Chelsea he had a chance. The old Heung-min Son would have buried it. It's not the right. He's not there at the right. He's not. I think mentally he's not there. Physically, he's declining slowly. But obviously, he's still the captain. We still play better when he plays. We need him there. Obviously, we need all the players at the moment. But I just think, at the moment, we're gonna eventually. I think this season shows it even more. We're gonna outgrow Heung-min Son. Just my opinion.
Craig, let's come to you. After 80 minutes, Tottenham with another glorious chance. Solanke, what a delightful through ball to Dejan Kulusevski. Wolves goalkeeper Sarr running out, putting him off. He managed to get the shot past him, but it was cleared off the line. I'll tell you what, let's talk a little bit about Dejan Kulusevski, because he has really been a shining light for us this season. No doubt, our most outstanding player. Have you been surprised by the level of performances from him consistently this season? Because when we talk about the inconsistency, he has certainly been a consistent performer this season.
He has, and you're right, he has been the one shining light. And we've known for a while that he says he loves hard work. He loves hurting in training. He loves putting everything on the line and leaving nothing out there. And he's been like that in most games. Yeah, I'd say most games this season, to be honest. That was a lovely through ball. I thought he should have just taken it first time, just flicked it the outside of his left foot over the keeper, but tried to take it wide, and the chance was gone. But that's not taking anything away from him. He's dug us out of holes. He's looked when he's come on in games. He's looked to change the game. He's looked better in that perhaps number 10 role, even though Ange says he doesn't have 6, 8s and 10s. He kind of does. And he's looked better than Maddison at times in that role. So he'll be incredibly frustrated. But when you're playing that well in a team and the team's just not performing, you think he's going to feel very disheartened with that. And he's certainly a player that we look to keep hold of for the foreseeable future. I know, look, it's not all doom and gloom. It does feel like that sometimes, but you know, Ange needs help. Even if Ange gets the boot, and like you, I mean, I said earlier, I can see him staying till the second semi-final of the Carabao, and then if we lose that, then he could be in trouble. But I've just supported this club for so long. I know, especially with Daniel Levy, how things go. He gets a bit of stick. The manager usually gets the boot as a result of that. You've seen it time and time again. And previously, a lot of people on social media, if that's as good a yardstick as anything, which of course it isn't, because we know social media hasn't been around in the past, and that's when managers, I think managers over the last few years since the inception of social media and how much influence it has, I don't think managers get as long nowadays because the fans are so free to voice their opinion. The club gauges that, and the club reacts as part of the reaction of the fans on social media, which shouldn't be the case, and you'd like to think isn't the case, but I think it is. I think it does come down to that. I think the club looks at things like that, judges a fan base, and when they start getting the stick, the manager gets the boot, and then it takes the pressure off them for a while because the new manager comes in, and it's just a vicious cycle. And that's why I agree with what Ricky was saying, that we've got to stick with Ange certainly for now, because I just haven't got the strength on the energy to go for another rebuild. We were promised this was going to be a rebuild. A rebuild doesn't take 18 months. It takes a hell of a lot longer. And I think I include myself in this, we're all incredibly impatient sometimes. And people would say, yeah, but he's had 18 months. Yes, he has. But the injuries he's had to contend with are just unbelievable. I don't think any other clubs had as many key players missing as we have this season, parts of last season. If Ange had a fully fit squad this year and with no injuries, and I know that's almost impossible, we would be a lot higher up that table. 100% we'd be a lot higher up that table. But that comes back to the strength of the squad. If the squad was stronger, those players dropping out wouldn't prove to be as much of a problem. And that's where we've got to improve in this transfer window. And the club has to change. It simply has to change, or they're going to miss out on their precious European place. They're not going to get that money coming in from there. So it's the, you know, this thing we've said on here many, many times, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Do you know what I mean? We've got to get the players in. And I know somebody said in their tactics, Craig, yeah, 100%. Angie's not fully absolved of guilt here. He's made mistakes as well. But it's mistakes throughout the whole club. But it comes from the top. It comes from the top until the top change. If they're not going to change, then they need to go. But if they change and they do what we all want them to do and plough loads of money and say, look, we're not just going to back you. We're going to back you. It's not just words. We're going to back you and give you exactly what you want. I think only then can you point the finger fully at the manager when he's got all the players in that he wants. He's got the squad assembled. If we're doing crap still then I think you can fully say, yeah, the manager's not doing his job. You've got to look higher than that. You've got to look at where the problem stems from. And that is my opinion on it. I just want the board to do better. And if you're not going to do better, then please leave.
Interestingly, the Spurs crowd were chanting about Daniel Levy and the board right at the end of the game, when, of course, the score was 2-2. Craig, let's stay with you for a second. Let's talk about Wolves' second goal. Strand Larsen, of course, got the goal. Talk us through it, because, as I said, it was extremely frustrating conceding the equaliser, particularly so late on in the game. The Wolves bench, I was just behind it at the time. They were absolutely delighted.
Yeah, look, it was a good through ball there, just on the border of being offside. You could argue the centre-backs are a little bit deep. I can't actually see who the one nearest on the line there is. But look, it was a fantastic finish. As I say, he could hit 10 out of them and 9 of them going to the side net or over the bar. It was just a brilliant finish, almost a hit and hope, if you like. personally not blaming Forster for that. The speed it went past him, not many goalkeepers going to get to that. It was obviously checked for offside, and it wasn't. You could see when the ball was played, he was just on. But yeah, it's very disappointing to concede at the end, because I actually thought at that point we were going to see it out. But I didn't think we were going to go up the other end and nick a winner. It just wasn't that sort of game. I haven't felt like that for a few weeks, to be honest with you. It almost seems like we're not playing as quickly as we were. We're not moving the ball as quickly as we were.
Yeah.
That's probably a discussion perhaps for another chat, because we've been 2 hours 20 minutes talking about this. So brilliant. Thank you for the 2,500 odd people sticking with us and hopefully using this as a bit of cathartism. Is that the right word? I don't know. But
well, I know I've been quite grumpy on this podcast, but I hope that you guys would agree that I always give you a chance to have your say and give time to you to have your say, because as you mentioned, nearly 2.5 hours on this podcast. We haven't even mentioned the Newcastle game yet. Let's just wrap this one up quickly. On 90 minutes, Wolves had a chance forced to save. 2 minutes later, in stoppage time, Sarr chance wide, and then 94th minute, Reguilon, quite a strong pass to Timo Werner, and it just went out of play. And the amount of people that left after that, because it was terrible. It was really bad. And then, of course, the full-time whistle, Spurs 2, Wolves 2, lots of boos at half-time. The music then went up very quickly. And that's it. We finish 2024 with a 2-2 draw. And we are mid-table, as I've said. One good bit of news today. Leyton Orient celebrated a new club record. Josh Keeley, of course, on loan at Tottenham Hotspur. On loan from Tottenham Hotspur, should I say, 7 clean sheets in a row in all competitions. That is a new club record. So many congratulations to Josh Keeley, and Jamie Donnelly is doing superb work there as well. Ricky, let's come to you finally. I did say, didn't I, before we went live, this podcast could go on for hours. I feel like there is so much more we've got to say and discuss, but I feel like the subject with Ange Postecoglou, will it work, won't it work? I feel like that could honestly go on for hours, if not days. Now, our first game of 2025, Tottenham v Newcastle at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next Saturday, the 4th of January, 12:30 p.m. kickoff. It is the early one. Newcastle play on Monday evening away at Manchester United. Newcastle have 29 points from the opening 18 games. I suppose, Ricky, this is a must-win, isn't it?
They've all been must-win, mate. They've all been must-win. People were chatting about the Man United Cup game being the most important game. Every single game is the most important game, because how much the energy swings from result to result. Newcastle are a tough side. They've had our number for a couple of years now, and the way that they break at speed as well is going to be a problem for us. But I'm just hoping and praying that this little breather, this little window of a couple of days here and there allows for some players to get back, from injury, and allows some players a little bit of rest and recuperation, not just their bodies, but their minds. Do you know what I mean? They've been on the ropes. We have been on the ropes the whole of December, really. And we've had combinations thrown at us left, right, and center. So the boys are feeling it. So hopefully with a little bit of rest, we see an improved performance, and we need a result, But the determination and the fight and the will from the boys today, who are running on empty and who have had to deal with all of this, gives me faith that they're going to go out there and do the same. They're going to give it their all, and they're going to go out there to win that game, however unlikely it seems. And sometimes when the world's against us, that's when you see Tottenham. That's when you see us stand up. So I'm hoping for one of those. I do want to just really, really quickly just jump on what Mel was saying about Romero as well, but maybe leaving and stuff like that. Also, remember what Romero said about the manager. He also kind of backed the manager and said that this, under this manager, we're going in the right direction. And if he was to get the sack, then he would question the ambition of the club too. He said something along those lines. So it shows you that the boys are with him and they're still fighting for him. They haven't given up. They haven't lost faith. And it just takes one piece of goodness, one piece of positivity, one result to change the way that we're feeling and hopefully set us on the right direction. But fundamentally, we need help in January, massively and quickly, ASAP, as soon as possible, please.
Ricky, realistically, how many players do you think we're going to get in January?
I think we need a minimum of 3. A minimum of 3.
That wasn't the question.
How many do I reckon we're going to get in? Maybe 2, but I think we need a minimum of 3.
Okay. I'm gonna have another text from my dad in a minute saying how abrupt that was.
That's all right. I love you too, Pups. It's all right, mate. It's one of those days, man. We've got to get it out.
Score prediction, Ricky, for the Newcastle game.
Like you, Chris, it could be anything. I'll go. Oh, bloody hell. I'll go as a delusional happy clapper. 3-1 Tottenham is what I'll go.
Okay, Melvyn.
Newcastle game.
Actually, Melvyn, sorry. Before you give your thoughts, please let us know your score prediction ahead of the Newcastle game. And before we come to Craig, I know he's going to ask anyway. Where are you watching from? Let us know where you're watching the podcast from. Thank you, Melvyn. Over to you.
Newcastle, obviously at home. It's gonna be a tough one. 3-2 to Spurs. I'll say.
Is that it?
Yeah.
As Craig just messaged you saying, "Hurry up, I've got a takeaway coming."
I don't know. It's been a long one, and I've enjoyed it. And I've honestly.
That's the actress said to the bishop.
That is the politest. I've got to go. Craig,
no.
over to you.
No. I thought we were just doing predictions for these. I didn't know I was going to go. Anyway, I'll just say.
I suppose it's like chalk and cheese. I get a Ricky Norwood answer lasting 45 minutes, and your one just lasted 4 seconds. So I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, your question was about Newcastle, and I gave my prediction. But anyway, I'll just say this. I'm still behind this manager. I'm still 100% behind him. I know we're gonna suffer the next couple of weeks. I think it's gonna be difficult. I think a lot of fans are thinking that we're gonna do something against Liverpool, and I just feel that it's gonna be harder now, because if we don't get past Liverpool, which most likely is gonna be a hard cup tie, it's. The times, it's not something that to bank on, to bank on Liverpool or getting to the final. So we still need to get behind the team. I think the home support needs to improve. That's the only thing we can do at this point. Chris, you go to every game. I think you were more cranky out of all of us because you were at the game. Like Ricky Norwood said, you were at the game. And I think if the home support doesn't improve, the atmosphere doesn't improve, it's the only thing we can do at the moment. The fans shouldn't be divided halfway through the season. I think we as a collective need to be together. It's the only thing we can do. There's no point of fighting. The season's not over. It's not over. It's not done. We'll fight in the summer. That's okay, because then, the football's done, and then we'll fight and we'll argue about who we should sack or buy and whatever. Levy in, Levy out. But at the moment, we need to pull the same rope and back the manager, back the team, improve the atmosphere, because the atmosphere has been going downhill at the moment, and it's noticeable from here. So the atmosphere needs to pick up, the fans need to pick up, and we need to get behind the team.
Yeah, it's not over, but we are 11th. Craig, what about you?
I think we're going to lose to Newcastle. I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to be 2-1, something like that. And I could see Isak having a field day, to be honest with you, and grabbing a couple. Sorry, but you asked me for my score prediction. That's my prediction. It's not what I want, obviously, but that's the way I see it going. Melvin's right. I think a lot. You know, we were in a place just over a year ago where I remember coming on here. Podcast seemed a lot easier to do back then. The fan base was galvanised. We were saying how good Ange had made the place feel again. There was music in the stadium. Robbie Williams was banging out. James Black was doing numbers, and everybody was joining in. You know, and remembering how good it felt to be a Tottenham fan again. Daniel Levy saying not so long ago, "We've got our Tottenham back." I'm not sure we have. Not at the moment, anyway. You're gonna have to read that out because we have. Yeah, this is.
We got the Christian Gross one.
Yeah, with this ticket. Yeah, I remember that. Fucking hell. I don't know. You got to stick with the club. Of course you have, because you haven't got a choice in life, have you? You can't just change your club. You can move your house if you don't like the house or the area. You can do all that. You can't change your football club. So you're lumbered. Like the rest of us, you're lumbered with it. So ups and downs, thick and thin, you stick with it. But as I say, they've got to do, the people at the top have got to look at this situation and realise they've got to change. They've got to do things differently if they want the situation to change. Because if you don't, it ain't going to change.
Can I... I'm not going to break a habit. Can I just ask you all very quickly where you think Spurs will finish at the end of this season, bearing in mind we are 11th at the moment? Ricky?
Second.
What?
I don't know, Chris. I don't bloody well know. I said fifth before. I'll stick with fifth. It's tough, man. It's tough. You know, this is nothing. Nobody wanted it to go this way. You know, nobody wanted it to go this way. Just when we was getting under a rhythm with Davies there and Draxon at the back, there's so many things that kick us in the backside. And half of the time we kick ourselves in the backside. So I just don't know. But I'll stick with what I've said before, and I'll say fifth. And a trophy. Go on, Tom.
Look, I know some of the regulars, like yourself, Ricky, get annoyed with some of the questions that I ask, but I've got to ask these questions as the host. I've got to ask.
All right, mate. Just keep believing. Everybody, just keep believing. All right? Stand with the manager, stand with the boys, and put that pressure, you know, on the board to change. Like Craig was saying, you know, let's stand together for once. In a long time, we do stand together, but it hasn't been for a long time that we've stood together. And let's stand together for once and show the board that you can't just deflect every single time. Do you know what I mean? You can't just deflect every single time. You can't just put it on the manager's shoulders every single time. Like Craig was saying, let's give it a go. We play risk and reward football, so let's risk it a little bit in the transfer window. And fingers crossed we finish fifth with a trophy. Me and Tom are on the same wavelength.
I tell you what, some of the mixed comments here. John Phillips says 9th. We'll lose in the FA Cup to Tamworth. Another comment here, 4th, but we'll win the League Cup. I tell you, it's such a mixture of different opinions. One word answer, Melvyn. Where will we finish?
6th.
Craig?
6th.
Okay. I've no idea. Let me just say a big thank you to Craig, Ricky and Melvyn for getting through over 2.5 hours on this podcast with a grumpy Chris Cowlin. I'm so sorry that I have been so grumpy today. I've been told off a number of times. I've checked my phone a minute ago and a number of other people have messaged me saying, what the hell is wrong with you tonight? Okay, I'm grumpy. I need to go home and have a rest, and we go again next weekend against Newcastle. Craig, where can people find you? What are you up to at the moment?
I'm just about to go and watch the darts. So I'm hoping for, you know, Luke Littler's not playing tonight. I wanted to see Luke get through last night, so that was good. Didn't play the best, to be honest. He had a bit of a Tottenham performance last night, but he got through. But yeah, just enjoying the darts. And then look, we got 6-day break now, I think, till Spurs' next game. So I'll just be trying to enjoy New Year. Never really rated New Year's Eve. I think it's totally overhyped. But yeah, just be having a drink New Year's Eve, and then it's kind of back to work and normal run-of-the-mill sort of stuff. Decorations come down, Tottenham come down. No, they don't. They're going to go up. We know they're going to go up. New year, new Tottenham. So, yeah, if you want to follow me at Dearman9 on X, that'd be very nice. And like I say, happy New Year to everybody, all the viewers. Hope you have a good one, whatever you're doing. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the nice comments. Thanks for the horrible comments. It's all good. It's all good. 2.5 hours or so talking about Spurs. Didn't think we'd make it, but we did. So, yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. See you in 2025.
Happy New Year indeed. Of course, we will start the year in 11th spot in the Premier League, but hopefully we will move up those spots. Melvyn, where can people find you?
Yeah, if you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, my handle is written there. Melvyn Tottenham, Melvyn with a 3. Yeah, it's happy New Year to everyone. I was thinking the last time I was with all of you was the Christmas pod, which I loved, which I found so funny, and yeah, I just look forward to seeing you guys in January. I'll be there for the Leicester game. Hopefully, we'll get some players back by then, and I'll see you guys, for a drink at the stadium, and look forward to the new year.
And Ricky, lastly with you, and a public apology for me having a go at you earlier. So apologies.
Don't you worry. You don't have to apologise to me, sunshine. We are brothers, and this is what Tottenham does to you, man. Tottenham, it's not your fault that you're grumpy. Tottenham done it to you, bro. And it's the amount of beatings that you've had to take consistently through December, bro. Every 3 days, So, bro, don't you worry about that at all. There'll be brighter days and smilier days and funnier pods in the future and in 2025. So don't you worry at all. But again, I'd like to just thank, like the boys, I'd like to thank every single person around the world that comments, positive, negative, or just gets out your opinion and your frustration with us all. We're going through this together. We are, to support us 4 fans. We're not experts. We're not pundits. We try our best to give our opinion because we live and breathe this club. And we all want the best for this club going forward. So thank you again for all of your support in 2024 and all of the support over the years. You guys are amazing. You guys know where you can find me as well. On X, you can find me at Ricky J Norwood. On Instagram, you can find me official Ricky Norwood. So again, thank you for all your love and support. And I look forward to seeing you in the new year. Whatever you do New Year's Eve, make sure you make memories. All right. And sending you big, big love.
Ricky, thank you so much. And I just want to say publicly a big thank you, especially to you and Craig, for the amount of hours that you have given up on this podcast during 2024. I just hope that 2025 brings us some sort of success and we move on and push on as a football club. But a big thank you to you. A big thank you to everybody who has listened to the show and watched the show during 2024. It has been a record-breaking month in many, many ways in December 2024 on YouTube and the audio versions as well. So a big thank you to you. I think we've still got 2,500 people with us and we've been talking for nearly 2 hours 40. So thank you so much for staying with us. Your loyalty is really appreciated and it's great having you here. Craig, Ricky, Melvyn, thank you so much. Have a great week. Have a happy new year and come on, you Spurs.
Come on.